Over 20 years ago, Alex Jones created the media platform called InfoWars, and in the decades since, it's grown into a truly remarkable institution with over 200 radio affiliates, tens of millions of unique website visitors monthly, and a 24/7 live news TV channel broadcasting from state-of-the-art studios in Austin, Texas. InfoWars has become the most trusted independent news source in the country, dedicated to delivering breaking news, live coverage of special events, and exclusive reports you won't find anywhere else. While the old guard media struggles to maintain supremacy in a landscape rocked by innovation and technology, InfoWars has been at the forefront of the information revolution. From 8 million radio listeners, over 2 million YouTube subscribers, or the billions of views of our online content, InfoWars proves dominant in every facet of media we enter. For the hardest-hitting reports, uncompromising analysis, for high-profile interviews and bombshell revelations, accept no substitutes. Demand truth. Demand InfoWars. InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
Well, I told you back in October that Trump needed to declare an emergency. And I told you a month ago that I thought he was going to do it and end the shutdown, because that was what the word was. And now he's done it. Just minutes ago, we'll play that speech, parts of it here in a moment, and all of it here in the next hour. He just concluded. And then you've got ABC Empire actor staged attack. That's what police believe. He used 2 of his Confederates that reportedly worked with him, other actors, and staged the attack. That's where this is all leading. And of course he staged the attack. Of course he did. I mean, I'm going to say it again. 99% of racial attacks are staged. I'm a news hound. It's all I do for 25 years, 24 years. And everybody knows that. And by the way, you'll hear about some white woman, 2 black men raped her and carved honky in her back. And it turns out that's not true either. Most of these things are staged. Like, most firefighters are great people. But in a lot of towns and cities, when they keep having arson and they notice that it's done particularly well, they start investigating and surveilling firefighters. And about a third of the time, it's a firefighter. A good portion of the time, it's a minority of the time, but it's still a portion of it, when they keep finding pipe bombs on the side of the road, and then the hero bomb squad guy keeps finding them and they start following that guy and catch him doing it. I mean, it happens over and over and over again. But I'm the bad guy for questioning Sandy Hook, because Hillary brought it up years after the internet had not believed it, because people don't know what to believe anymore, because so many times things are staged. Now, some of the anomalies people raised about Hook turned out to not be accurate. And I looked at those parents on TV and what they were saying, and it looked real. But the minute, before I was ever sued or threatened with suit, the minute I said I thought it happened, it was lawsuit, which shows very interesting psychology. And so if Sandy Hook didn't kill the Second Amendment, it's killing the First. I've talked to top lawyers that have been at the biggest events in the country, some on record, some off record. And we had a lot of lawyers here the last 2 weeks deciding what I'm going to do, who I'm going to sue, so I have to fight back. And they're at these big conferences, and point blank, they go, oh, we're getting rid of the First Amendment for the general public. And it's going to be the Alex Jones doctrine, the Alex Jones statute. It's being called that. And they're getting all the lawyers together, and they're saying, this is how it is. We're going to get rid of anybody we say is fake news. Just the media, corporate media will say it. And then you don't have First Amendment protections. But then the super class, they will. And there's big debates at the Texas Supreme Court, at the Texas bar, at the Connecticut bar, New York bar. Top debates are, this is going to end up getting everybody. And so now there's top-level meetings. They're like, you need to drop these Sandy Hook lawsuits on Jones, because it's rigged. I mean, 100% railroad job right into shutting down InfoWars. In fact, the lawyers involved say that. They go, we're going to shut him down. That's what we're going to do. And then they misrepresent all the facts. It's crazy. But it's so evil and so diabolical and so un-American that there's been a big turn in the American Bar Association, the highest levels. They're like, we're really going to get rid of due process in the First Amendment in this whole deal on crackdown on media? I mean, America's going authoritarian, and I've been chosen as the test case. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, President Trump just minutes ago declared a national emergency, taking back executive power from the usurper, Nancy Pelosi. And ABC's Empire star is very close to being criminally charged. They've already got who they believe are his accomplices in staging the event. In a city like Chicago under total surveillance, Jesse Smollett staged attack. That's what the police believe. Well, of course he did. West Point, the Marine Corps training facilities, the Army training facilities, all of them have the exact same staged event in the barracks and at the vending machines saying no N-words allowed. And it's all done under orders of the whole network of the Democratic Party. They are encouraged to do it. And now that they've demonized me in the news, I'm going to talk about this later, not because it's about me, because it's so illustrative. John Ronson, I've known 20 years, and who acts all nice and friendly, but then every time doesn't deliver on what he says he'll do. Super manipulative. And I told him, I said, I know you're manipulating people, but I'll go on your NPR show, because it does have 5 million listeners. And they have been camped out in Rockwall, Texas, where I'm from, I guess for months off and on, canvassing everybody. And then they get me on the interview that they're going to in a couple of weeks and literally make up whole cloth in stories. And oh, and guess what? I know Ronson learned the truth. I've got his text messages. I think I'm going to make a mini documentary out of this. He's like, oh, it's like Wild Wild West, pretty incredible stuff, pretty incredible stories. And I'm like, oh, so you did go talk to people. I'm not bragging. I don't live back in high school. I couldn't wait to get out of high school. I didn't particularly dislike it. I had college friends. I guess I'm already getting into this story. And Ronson was working on this theory that I was this loner and unhappy, and that's why I'm this bad person. And you know, like psychopaths, I guess, have bad, upbringings or whatever. He's written a book about that. It's like a sociopaths are always trying to understand themselves. And then they project it onto you. And at the end of the interview, he goes, I know this has been traumatic. I apologize, Alex. I know your childhood was traumatic, and it's okay if you need to call me and you need to break down or anything. And I know they're going to edit it. So I recorded the whole thing with video, audio, everything. And I told him that as well. I don't think he was listening. At the end, I go, I recorded this. He goes, you did, Alex. So I'm going to get to that later. I'm going to get to the national emergency and all the big news. It's just, I never do mainstream interviews, but I have this thing for people I've known a long time. And Ronson is a smart and interesting guy, but come on, Alex, you're such a powerful and important person. Please do the interview. It's very nice, the story. It's actually uplifting and wild, wild west. And I mean, I've got all the text messages. And I'm like, dude, you're manipulating me, telling me I'm powerful and I'm important. I said, there's no way you're going to tell any of the real stories, because they make me look like John Wayne. And I'm not bragging. It's just, it was very rough high school. A lot of people starting fights. And I was in hundreds of fights. People attacked me starting in fifth grade, hundreds of times. Kids that were 2, 3 grades, out of school. And like I said, when I was in 6th grade, there were a lot of kids with mustaches. They go around and beat people up in school and do nothing because they were minorities. That means God. And so the white kids all got to be beaten up. And see, that's why I'm the bad racist, you see. I'm the person that's been racially attacked, let's not exaggerate, 100 times. And they didn't pick any of the racial attacks. They picked a fight with I guess the term would be redneck or roper. They picked one of those fights and then totally misrepresented what happened to make me the villain and then made up some other wild story. And the reason I bring this up is it's like being raped when these people pretend to be journalists and then they just completely make up whatever they want. Completely make up whatever they want. And they use props. People that are like, well, Alex Jones is a villain. Alex Jones is a bad guy. So we'll say he wears swastika shoes. That was an EEOC complaint. No proof, got dropped. Totally false. I mean, if you ever catch me wearing swastika shoes, that's when you need to shoot me. Hitler was a horrible loser. He destroyed Europe. He killed 20 million Germans, not to mention 20-something million Russians and millions of Jews and people. I mean, I'm just so sick of Hitler. And I'm sick of hearing I'm associated with Hitler. And I'm sick of all the racist minorities pointing their finger at white people and saying, we're the bad people. It's disgusting. And the left are the ones fueling it. The average, quote, minority just wants to live their life. They're good people. But I knew exactly what Brett Kavanaugh felt like. But they were saying that he raped women. And then all these other women came out and later, when they got charged, said, okay, I just made it up. You know, it's political. The truth is, I know people that know Kavanaugh. I checked into it. They go, dude, that dude was a virgin when he got married. Ultra super nerd. Mr. First in class every test. Mr. Study 20 hours for every test. I know the type. It's not a bad type. My son is obsessed with making a perfect grade on the SAT. I mean, he's not Kavanaugh level, you know, Leave It to Beaver, but he's close. I'm like, my God, my son's like Leave It to Beaver. This is wonderful. He wins all the speech awards. He's very outgoing. He takes girls out on dates, but, you know, he's not even going to, you know, kiss them or anything until he gets serious and in college. And I'm like, well, and you know, 30 years ago, I'd say that guy's a wimp. I'd say, man, I'm proud of my son. The point is, imagine Kavanaugh, where he's all about his whole life is straight lace. His whole life is executing by the book, and that's his whole value. And then these people come along and just make all this crap up, and they sit there knowing it's made up, knowing the truth. Knowing the truth. And they don't want anything to do with it. It's like Louis Gohmert, congressman from Texas, told Sundar Pichai, he said, you wouldn't know the light if you saw it because you've never seen it. You just don't know what light is. Now, I was wild. I was out of control. I was a hellion. I wasn't like a criminal, but I was a hellion. And thank God I made it out of it by about 16 and a half. But the point is, they don't want any of that truth. They just want to make stuff up. And again, I know everyone knows it, but until you experience the premeditated lying. I mean, take Megyn Kelly. She says, it's not about Sandy Hook. I want to know about, you're so interesting, and about your family and about your divorce and what you've gone through. She gets here. It's all about Sandy Hook. I say Sandy Hook happened. She edits it to have me say it happened so they could sue me. She's a damn lawyer. And I'm just saying, folks, you don't understand the level until you experience the premeditated fraud of these people. Until you experience the fact that you give an interview to the New York Times, ABC News, NPR, they're going to lie because that's who they are. It's what they do. They can't do anything else. And we have to get it through our head. These people are the enemy. Oh, boy, I'm just trying to process everything. But when you run into solid walls of liars like Brett Kavanaugh did, consciously trying to destroy you by just making things up, And then they turn it around and create HBO characters and Showtime characters and Comedy Central characters saying it's me, playing clips of me on the shows. And I walk down the street and people go, it's Homeland Man, it's Homeland Man. I've had national reporters in the studio, and they're looking for the fake news command base with 100 people typing lies. That's the New York Times, not us. Of course the public didn't buy Sandy Hook because they don't know what to buy. You've got the police saying they believe that the Empire star on ABC staged the attack with 2 of his associates, his assistants, fellow actors. That's ABC News. Babies in incubators that never died, but we went to war and millions died, and Madeleine Albright, like a big, fat, swollen tick, a blood-drunk demon, tells 60 Minutes, cue that up if you can, 500,000 dead Iraqi kids are a good price to pay, close quote. But she's a good person. I'm the bad man because I question these groups and these organizations, and you're not supposed to do that in America. You're supposed to roll over, and you're supposed to let them take your children and take your country and take your guns and take your property and take your God. Well, I'm not rolling over to it. And let me tell you, in the last 24 hours, I have had incredibly good news that I'm not at liberty to get to on multiple fronts. Multiple fronts. I mean, very good news. And I know people want good news, and so Q, gives you this good news, and everybody's in on the Q thing and the little breadcrumbs, and they're smart, and they know what's real. It's like a fortune cookie. This is the real world. I told you Trump was going to win. I got on the front line to get people mobilized to do it. You did it as well. I told you the national emergency was coming. I told you they were going to fire Sessions. And I keep telling you everything that's going to happen. And so we can fight the bad stuff and hope it doesn't. And then the few times we actually stop something bad, people go, oh, it didn't happen. And later we find out they tried to do it. And that's really my message to everybody here is we can win this fight. But we have to let it burn into our brains real good and real hard, myself included. Like, why in Hades? Why in the river Styx? Why in the ninth circle? Why in the gates of hell? Why in the old serpent's arse did I give NPR an interview? Because you go back one more time thinking, someday they'll tell the truth. Someday, but they won't because they are frauds. They are fiction writers living in the real world, trying to be wizards and control people's outlook and manipulate reality into what they want reality to be. Instead of us just pointing out how God made things and the natural order that feels good, works good, blesses you, and takes us beyond the stars. We're going beyond the stars. That's why they're not even into space exploration anymore, because they figured that out. They're like, space exploration? How about dimensional exploration? So we're going to go to break, and then I'll play the national emergency speech, and then Pelosi in her fascist uniform. And they keep calling her the president. No, she's really the president. I told you that was coming because they want to impeach Trump using Russia garbage. That'll get Pence out as well. And then, third in succession is Madam Speaker, who they're building up like she's a god. And now she's wearing space captain outfits. I mean, this is really a joke. We can't beat this thing. But I've gotten some calls in the last 24 hours by household names. And let me just tell you something. Well, I'm not at liberty to tell you. let's just say this. Trump's a good guy, but Trump isn't what brought us here. He rode in on the wave. And like I said, bigger waves are coming. And the EU's going down. China's going down. The globalists are going down. And it's a very exciting time to be alive. But the next few years are going to be real rough. But the globalists have given up. The globalists have given up. It doesn't mean they're not going to keep stealing and, have tens of trillions and try to start more wars, manipulate, but they know they're behind the 8 ball now. All right, I'm going to be more circumscript and more focused when we come back. I just have been poleaxed by the good, the bad, and the ugly the last really 48 hours. And then, boy, pulling my bicep is not good. Excuse me. Anyways, that is the old body is something else. Isn't it? Amazing thing God gave us, but when it breaks, it's not fun. By the way, if you're a TV viewer, you can see this. Radio listeners, go to InfoWarsStore.com. This is inspired by a tweet by Donald Trump Jr., where he said, capitalists walk their dogs, socialists eat them. And then it's got InfoWars.com and American flag on the right shoulder. It's a very nice black T-shirt made right here in America, printed right here in America. And it funds our operation, and it is a limited edition. It's got 10 reviews, 100% satisfaction. There's going to be a new variant of this. It has become a bestseller, but this is the last run. We've done 2 runs of it. When this sells out, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll have a new version with her as a dog on the front. But you want to trigger leftists? This is their god. So InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. The name of the shirt is Capitalists Walk Their Dogs, Socialists Eat Them. Oh, we heard that vicious white men screaming, "Make America Great Again," put a noose around the Empire Star's neck and called him gay and did mean things to him. And now 2 Nigerian brothers could be charged in Jussie Smollett attack. And, of course, the police believe that he hired them, they work for him, and they staged the event. Nigerians involved in scams? Come on. That's only their national pastime. I have had 2 associates, 4 or 5 people I know, and someone in my family, actually 2 people in my family, give money to the Nigerians. And my grandmother, my mother's mother, God bless her, gave everything she had her entire life to charity. Even though she had an oil field in West Texas, she lived in South Austin I think when they moved from a Hyde Park, nicer area of Austin, because they wanted to give everything to church, I think it was something like a $30,000 house. The house, I think, is worth like $80,000 now. I mean, that's in Austin. That gives you an idea. She basically moved to the barrio. She liked her neighbors. They're nice people. They all loved her. But the point is that I found out that she was giving most of her money to African charities. And some of them were good, some of them were bad. By the time she got to be about 89 or so, she was kind of out of it a little bit. But they were still calling her at the nursing home by the time she moved out of her house. And then someone even closer to me started giving money to the Nigerians last year. And I threw a fit. And I'm just really sick of Nigerians right now. God almighty, I'm so sick of people staging crap and running scams. Oh, my God, my grandmother. Until she died, I had no idea how much money she'd had over the years. So I remember I started giving her money about 10 years ago after my grandfather died. Because I'd go over there, and the food she was getting was like the cheapest, low-grade whatever, and she was clipping out coupons. And it turns out she'd given millions and millions, everything she had away over the years. We stopped her from giving her body to science. My grandfather did. But you take people that good. I mean, she was really good. My grandfather was really that good. They were really Good people. I'm like a devil compared to them. And I remember my grandfather on Sundays, even when it was football season, even when Tom Landry still was coaching the Dallas Cowboys. So I used to go over there a lot of Sundays once I moved down here in high school. And Tom Landry would call. They would pray on the phone together. Because he was roommates with him at UT. And then they were both in the Army Air Corps. But the point is that that's what built America, was people like that. They were so moral and so good, it wasn't an act. They were good people. But see, I'm not. I'm not an evil person, but I know how evil operates, and I won't take it from these people. And I'm sick of it. Because they were all good people, but they were blind. They projected onto other people their goodness when other people weren't good. But my dad's mother, she was different. She didn't believe a damn thing anybody said, and she was the smartest of all of them. And I know there's a heaven because I'm going to see those people again. But I get scared. Really scared for my kids, because let me tell you, there are not a lot of people like that anymore. You don't run into those people anymore. And you know what? 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you couldn't swing a stick in the dark and not hit somebody that was really good. And let me tell you why they hate this show. They know you're good. They know you love God. And I'm so sick of watching them up on TV exercising evil against us in front of everybody. I mean, do you understand that the proper response to the governor of Virginia saying we keep babies alive and they take their organs, you know what the proper response is. Now, in this weird, screwed up world, I'm not calling for violence, and I'm not going to go pump, a couple rounds into his head. But what about the baby? See, it's okay to say you're going to kill babies after they're already born. That's okay. That son of a piece of garbage can sit up there and say that to the whole world and exercise that evil in front of you and rub it in on purpose and get you ready for more evil. That's what he's doing. He's breaking you. How are we so conditioned to say it's not good to kill men, saying we're going to kill babies after they're born, who laugh about it and sign death execution warrants on children? But if you just talk about them in that position, that's bad, because we are cowards. And we are trained to bow down to these people. Now, I want to be clear. We have the moral high ground. We need to expose them. And the public's so ignorant, they don't get this. So even though under God's law, murdering children is the death penalty, premeditated murder is the death penalty. But this is a metaphysical war. And when I go to Congress, there's no patriots in the hallways. There's leftist scum running around. If everyone in America, when Congress was in session, just one week out of the year, if you just went to D.C. as your, quote, vacation, maybe saw some museums, took your wife out to dinner, you deserve some time off, but you know what? Those kids deserve to be saved. And if you just went and visited your congressman or woman, or you went to some of the press conferences and you just stood up and said your mind, you'd reach millions of people, and they would do something. But, it's the Capitol, it's big, it's, Senator, they're so powerful. And they're nothing but a bunch of dirty, stinking, chicken-necked, ass-kissing lawyers. They're nothing but scum. They're nothing but cowards. They're nothing but filth. And God is going to destroy them. In the name of Jesus Christ, God is going to put cancer in every damn one of them. So Governor Northam is trying to sign a death warrant in Virginia to kill children after they're born. And the governor of New York's done it. Democrats are getting it passed in New Mexico, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Virginia right now. They're on 2 governors' desks and pending in 2 other states. That's signing death warrants on children. And I don't wish any violence against these sacks of garbage. These turn themselves into victims. But if Tim McVeigh supposedly, which it was a staged event, obviously, bombed the daycare center, some of them were newborn babies, he got charged with deaths of those babies. So those babies matter, but other babies don't. Now think about that. So if you have the post-birth abortion now where a man stabbed his fiancée to death because she was pregnant and going to keep the baby, and they said in New York, we're not going to charge him for killing the baby because it's not a human, even though the woman decides it is and wants to keep it. So that's where we are as a culture. And I keep hammering on that because they're out in the open pushing all this. All right, let's shift gears. A lot of people are probably asking, wow, Alex, you predicted in October the national emergency when no one else did. And then you said a month ago you thought it was about to be signed, but Trump did the wrong thing and let them kill $2 billion a week out of the economy and act like they're grandstanding instead of just absolutely devastating them right up front and taking control of the border. Well, why should we even play the clip? I mean, you get next year's news today here. Kind of like a time machine. I'm not bragging. That's why they want us off the air. Because these academics and these globals, they don't really do much work. They kind of agree and go play golf and go take drugs and do whatever and then steal money and then worry about what trips they're going to go on. But none of them are happy, though, statistically, because they're not doing anything real. See, I'm not bragging. I actually can't stop learning how all this works. So they tune into these shows and they're like, this dude knows stuff that CIA director knows, and that's about it. How does he know it? I had the FBI call up and say, how did you predict the day of the event, Las Vegas? Well, that's how can I throw bullseye at 20 feet if I don't think about it twice in a row? Everybody knows that's what that is. You can't control it. You guys got to go with it. And they're getting mad because the older I get, the more I know. I just go with my gut now. It's never steered me wrong. That's what wisdom is going with discernment, going with God. God's already navigating for you. And if you've got a relationship with God, it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. I used to sit there in church and hear about, Christians in the Bible saying, God, we don't want to die, but we're ready to come home and be with you forever. And we just can't wait to be with you. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want to die. I got time to go see God. And I don't want to die now. I never commit suicide. But I want to be with God. And the reason about my personal experience is this experience is what the enemy doesn't like. Now, the other side of me is, I want to stay here and take care of my kids. And that means take care of you. We're all in this together. You got to take care of me. And we got to stand up against totally sold out, soulless mummies, narcissistic mannequins like Nancy Pelosi, who don't have any connection to God. No connection. She enjoys power. But does she look like she has any power? You know who's got power? Is a single mother who just worked 12 hours, picked her kids up, made them dinner. One of them gets the flu, and she's up all night while that 5-year-old's puking their guts out, and she takes care of them. And then she goes back to work the next day. Instead of just ignoring her kid and slamming the door and driving off down the road. That's what power is, Pelosi. It's dedication and billions of man hours of people committed to doing the right thing to bring us where we are. And then you people hijack it and you sit up there like demonic parrots chirping. And you have no leadership, you have no power. Doesn't matter how much power you get, or doesn't matter if you're wearing $5,000 dresses. You will always be a soulless sack of garbage. You will always be filth. You will always be what's wrong with the world. And we don't take pleasure in how low she is, but we need to recognize that she's lower than anything on this planet. And she is being replaced by even more soulless people like Cortez. So, sure, I'll get to the emergency. Sure, why not? But notice what she's threatening is martial law. In fact, here's the name of this segment. Nancy Pelosi threatens martial law gun confiscation. I mean, that's what she's doing. That's what happens under real high-level martial law. Is they confiscate the firearms. And so she's saying, hey, watch out. You don't declare an emergency on our border, which is in the Constitution, which is the president's duty, not his right. You will do it, Trump. You will do it. And you did do it. We have to stop laying down. You think I want to puff up and get all ramped up against these killers? I have to, folks. We need to stop kissing their asses. We have to stop being afraid of them and stop being blown away by their $5,000 dresses. Don't California my Texas is the shirt I'm wearing, or don't California my USA. We also want Don't California my Texas. We're going to have a new one coming out that says Don't Venezuela my USA, InfoWarsStore.com. That's how you fund the broadcast and everything else, so please support us. But I keep saying I'm going to go to it. Stuart Rhodes is in studio next hour. He's a constitutional lawyer. We always forget that, not just a veteran. You know, why is it cool? Because old Stuart used to have a glass eye. And I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, he probably didn't remember this. I said, hey, man, nothing wrong with the fact you lost your eye in the Army. It's kind of cool. Like, everybody instinctively likes a male with one eye. Like, what does it mean? That person's been through something. It's like a sign. It's like scars you get. They become your friends. They're memories of what happened. Victories and defeats and wars. See, we respect somebody that gave something up like Odin to get the true vision, had to give up one of the eyes. You have to give up focusing on the petty and the world in front of you before the big eye opens up. And then when you've got that one eye, it sees all. That's how powerful humans are. It's a symbol of the one eye. And you go, oh my gosh, that's the Illuminati. No, it's not. They steal all the symbols. The all-seeing eye is God's eye. The devil and Google trying to be all-seeing, that's not God. You in communion with God, that's all-seeing. But see, Snake Plissken, as much as I love Kurt Russell, didn't really lose his eye. And that's the whole point. And it's not like Stuart Rhodes wears his eye patch now because it's in fashion. It's like men going bald. So what? Go bald. That's just you're a man. What are you worried about? You lost your eye in the Army. Wear a damn patch. Let them know you did it. Don't cover it up with a nice blue marble. Those scars are sacrifices. Those scars are payment. And even if you did those things and were deceived and were even carrying out evil, God judges the heart like King David, did horrible things, and then later realized it was wrong, didn't do it for the wrong reason, and repented, and it was real. And God said, that's a man after my own heart right there. Those scars are our medals. Those emotional scars, those physical scars, those aren't how we're weak and we revel in being victims. And how we revel in pissing on ourselves and all the bad things that happen. The bad things that happened to me. I'm not a masochist. I don't like pain. But let me tell you, in the journey, I'm way stronger than I ever would have been if I was sitting there playing video games all day on my ass instead of getting the living hell beat out of me by horrible racist gangs of blacks. And I thank them for that now. Because I'm not going to be racist and fallen like they are. And there are a lot of great black people. I appreciate that. My head being slammed into concrete. I made it through it. And I became strong. And later, the people that slammed my head in the concrete got tracheotomies. And I'm sad for that too. But that's the full circle of Earth. It's how God delivers the real balance. All right, I'm going to stop. I'll play the clips and Stuart Rhodes coming in. Stay with us. Newswars.com, Infowars.com. Tomorrow's news today. Please listen to me very carefully because this is beyond key. And everyone already knows it. I'm just saying things you already know, but we have to say it aloud. Those of us that are confident tend to be quiet. We can't be quiet anymore. We have to take action. If you won't ever take action in the information war, you'll never take action in the physical war. And we're trying to override and avert and circumnavigate physical war. But God, would the physical war be easier? Aren't we so much more built for that? It's like putting on an old pair of boots you've worn so many times before, even though many of you genetically have never physically done it in this lifetime. But your guts have done it. Your genetics have done it. Your family history. Your earth suit that's made up of all your ancestors. Not the incarnation or reincarnation they talked about. Your soul's new. Your soul's original. Your soul's in this body. But the body is your family. How cool is God? Who could come up with that? So awesome, man. Our bodysuit is all of our ancestors and their memories. That's like heads-up display. Way cooler than the internet, man. I'm sorry, let me just say this now. This is the key. The governor of Virginia says we're going to legalize killing babies after they're born because he's running major medical units that's come out and been confirmed that are harvesting organs. They need to keep them alive because then they can keep them alive a week or so and then get bigger prices in the bidding system that they've got. They've got private bidding systems for those organs. Was that $100,000? You know, if you just gut them right there, you get a lot more than that. And it's the same thing with Pelosi. She comes out and says, look out, you declare an emergency for the border that's in the Constitution. That's just default. The president does. That's his job. It's not like all these other fake emergencies other presidents have had. Most of them have been unconstitutional. This was totally cut and dry bona fide. That's why Trump went with it. It's just cut and dry. You'll have lower courts throw it out. The Supreme Court will affirm it. A 5-year-old could affirm it. But see, she's not really threatening a civil emergency. She's threatening martial law and gun confiscation. Let that sink in. Nancy Pelosi is threatening martial law, not her own declaration of emergency if a Democrat gets in, meaning her. Later, they remove Trump with the whole Russiagate thing. She's third in succession. See, so people are like, oh, she threatens her own emergency. No, she's threatening martial law. See, the governor isn't just saying we're going to kill babies after they're born. He's saying we're going to take their organs. See, that's what we do is we give you the goal, what they're really doing, because they never say what it really is. It's always, oh, we'll have our own emergency on guns. Well, what does that mean? You mean confiscating them, lady, and a whole civil war, because that would start it. And you're just crazy enough to do it. And so that's how we're 2 minutes to midnight right now. This woman is so disconnected from reality. She takes our restraint as weakness, which, let me explain something to you. Our restraint is because we are going to wrap around you like a giant python, and we're going to make sure that when we take your system down, which we're doing all over the world, that we are assured of it. And then these snakes always think if they attack the leading edge of the knife that we'll back down like we're them. We've already been thrown like a hatchet. It's already, the arrow's been loosed. The trajectory's already confirmed. I've already run you through, Pelosi. Our audience is already, we already exited. I meant to splatter up against the wall behind you and fall down on the ground. I'm a torpedo. I'm a weapon. There isn't just evil in the world, woman. There's good. Learn what it's like. Here she is when we go to break. Here it is. She's threatening martial law.
The Republicans have some unease about it no matter what they say, because if the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people. You want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, the one-year anniversary of another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence.
I'm going to come back with this. Do you see her smirking about, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump has declared a national emergency. And unlike the other national emergencies that were done by globalist presidents to give trillions of dollars to foreign banks and things like Bush did, W did, this is a national emergency in the Constitution where the border's being overrun by giant caravans and diseases pouring over, and the Democrats trying to break the back of our very existence under a UN plan that's admitted. Chain migration, migration replacement, world government, all of it. And now Pelosi comes out in a chilling statement we're going to play here and says that, look out, another president with other values could do it on the Second Amendment, which is the New York Times headline, time to repeal the Second Amendment. But she means by executive operation. Pelosi warns GOP. Next president could declare a national emergency on guns and confiscate them. That's where we are in 2019, even though the Washington Post has to admit, I couldn't believe they told the truth yesterday on Valentine's Day. Most Americans incorrectly think gun murder rates have gotten worse, not better. Think about that. The peak of crime was 1990. Let me tell you, I was living in Dallas then, and it was just like 6, 7 murders a day, stabbings, robbings, nice neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods. It was crazy. But here's Nancy Pelosi literally introducing the idea of martial law. Here it is.
Have some unease about it no matter what they say, because if the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people. You want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, the 1-year anniversary of another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence in America. That's a national emergency. Why don't you declare that emergency, Mr. President? I wish you would.
So, you just heard Nancy Pelosi trial balloon, beta test, market test, preview, showcase, display, roll out, premiere, martial law and gun confiscation. You just heard it. Oh, we don't want your guns. Just every city we control, we take your guns. Oh, we don't want martial law. Lady, if Congress won't act and our borders being overrun by 10, 15,000 people a day, they admit the highest numbers ever. I mean, even Border Patrol says that, and Trump goes, highest ever. They go, no, it's not. You're a liar. Fact check. Snopes says. Well, if a porn star and a dude and a fat lady and a cat said it, it's not true. We don't listen to the ICE or the Border Patrol and the actual numbers where they're on the line and if they do something wrong, they get sued or arrested. Very professional. No, it's not. We don't listen to them. We listen to Snopes. Snopes says there's no caravan. Remember Cuomo and CNN? There's no caravan. Acosta, there's no caravan. There's no caravan. As Beto says, we got 2,000 a day coming across. We're getting it done. Do you like my Vermont accent? And again, I love Vermont. It's beautiful. I was in Vermont like 25 years ago in fall. It was so beautiful. I thought I was in the Hobbit Shire. I'm not against Vermonters. But do I go to Vermont and and talk like this to you? No, I don't do it. It sounds like some type of character from Warner Brothers cartoons. Oh, God, help me. You just heard Nancy Pelosi. You just heard her say, we'll declare martial law and take your guns. When since the 1976 change, which they always point to, there's been 37 declarations of emergency every year and a half or so on all sorts of stuff, usually about swindling us and selling us out and giving our money to foreign countries. Trump comes in and he finally declares the national emergency when the damn border is collapsing, and she acts like that's taking your guns. Trump isn't signing some order, taking the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or the 10th Amendment or the 9th Amendment or the 7th Amendment or the 4th. No. He's signing a declaration of emergency because he's got control of the Pentagon money and so much more. And Obama gave trillions of dollars to foreign banks under an emergency. Trump's just trying to get $4 or $5 billion because they're trying to break our border. And they turn that into you better watch out. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming. Santa Claus is coming to town. He'll put you in a FEMA camp. He'll take your guns away. They'll teach your 3-year-old to get blowjobs, and that's just today. It's the satanic new world order. We'll abort your baby after they're born. We'll teach your kids to take ketamine and dance at gay bars when they're 11. Because Satan Claus is coming to town. And Pelosi's up there in her black outfit. Just like, listen, you want to declare emergencies and even tell the... Because usually when a president declares an emergency, I was watching it once live on C-SPAN when it happened. They march into the House and they say, we have a message here as a herald of the President of the United States declaring an emergency to the Congress. And they list the Congress. And the Congress says, we are ready to receive the emergency. Then they have a vote on whether they're going to oppose the emergency, and it's never on the news. But now, when the country's really under attack and it's all happening, we're not allowed to discuss it. We're not allowed to know about it in the past. But now we're supposed to all be told about it and told how it's martial law and how Pelosi can take your boom booms, your bang bangs. That's how far we've gone. But I do feel good energetically because we're on the march, the empire's on the run. Let's go ahead and play part of Trump, and we'll play more in the next segment. And Stuart Rhodes is going to join us in the studio.
Today I'm announcing several critical actions that my administration is taking to confront a problem that we have right here at home. We fight wars that are 6,000 miles away, wars that we should have never been in many cases, but we don't control our own border. So we're going to confront the national security crisis on our southern border, and we're going to do it one way or the other. We have to do it. Not because it was a campaign promise, which it is. It was one of many, by the way, not my only one. We're rebuilding the military. Our economy is thriving like never before. You look at other economies, they're doing terribly, and we're doing phenomenally. The market is up tremendously today. Not that that's anything, but, you know, because I'll go back in and they'll say, oh, the market just went down. But the market is getting close to the new highs.
Pause on that. When he acts like the president and America's open for business and he acts, it goes straight up. When it looks like the Chi-Coms are back in control, it goes straight down. People want action, Trump. They want it. They want it. And this is beautiful. So if Pelosi thinks she's going to take our guns, we should give Nancy Pelosi a helicopter ride. Oh, no. I don't mean like Pinochet did in Chile. I mean to Venezuela. Take her and Alexandria Cortez and all these other dumbasses who want to go along with the takedown of the country and just fly them all down there with the other dumbass commies. We're going to come back with the rest of this straight ahead. Infowars.com, newswars.com. Tomorrow's news today. I mean, it really is tomorrow's news today. I mean, we're not really covering the emergency a lot because we told you it was coming, right? Sure. We told you first. It's on record. So President Trump has declared a national emergency, and the media is not going to act like it's totally illegal, it's evil, it's martial law, when it's one of the few national emergencies a president can actually do. The border's collapsing, the UN's running a migrant invasion to overwhelm the courts, disease is pouring in. That's as standard as it gets, other than like let's say a meteorite the size of a blue whale comes in and hits, say, in Kansas. It's going to be the equivalent of a 50-megaton hydrogen bomb. You're going to have most people dead in the state. You're going to have dust in the air. You're going to have fires raging all over the middle of the country. Let's say it's a meteorite a mile long and maybe a half-mile wide. Oh, well, now you're talking about a couple years of freezing temperatures, dust in the air, most of the U.S. destroyed. I mean, you know that a meteorite, say a nickel meteorite or an iron ore meteorite, or even a stony, if it's the size of a school bus, made the crater in Arizona. And it would take a lot of hydrogen bombs to do that. So that's why we have emergencies. Depressions, wars, collapsing borders, meteorites. nuclear war. And the president has now announced it. So what's the headline for this segment? We're live right now. We'll post it to Infowars.com. Man who predicted Trump declares emergency responds to emergency. I mean, I don't know what you say, but let's talk about when we come back with Stuart Rhodes. He's a little late in traffic. What he thinks is coming next. He's a smart guy. Stuart's such a stickler. You know, he's a Yale-educated lawyer. He used to work for Ron Paul. But he goes, I haven't been practicing law the last few years. Well, he helped us win a case with RudeasU and the police in Cleveland. He's calling up going, well, I'm not currently practicing law, so don't say I'm a constitutional lawyer. Dude, you got a law degree. You practice law. He's such a good guy, though. See, that's the stickling compared to, like, leftists that just lie about everything. He's a constitutional lawyer. He's not currently practicing. That's all. But that's a patriot versus leftists that just constantly lie. A patriot talks themselves down instead of up. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but we have to stop worrying about if our boots are shined in this fight. We're in a war. Period. And we're taking action. Let's go back to the president. Here he is about an hour ago declaring a national emergency.
Down. But the market is getting close to the new highs that we created. We have all the records. We have every record, but we're getting close to that point again where we'll create new records. So our country is doing very well economically, and we've done a lot. But one of the things I said I have to do and I want to do is...
He knows they're trying... Let's start it all over. They're trying to kill the economy. And sure, it's fiat and it's a bubble, but he's actually trying to get some jobs and factories back because we don't have that. If we got to have a war, he's got to get the factories back. And believe me, the globalists want wars. We don't want wars. He's trying to pull troops out where we don't need them to get the money to actually build high-tech weapons to then be a deterrent from a war. Peace through strength. Very pragmatic. Let's continue.
Oh, the market just went down. But the market is getting close to the new highs that we created. We have all the records. We have every record, but we're getting close to that point again where we'll create new records. So our country is doing very well economically, and we've done a lot. But one of the things I said I have to do and I want to do is border security, because we have tremendous amounts of drugs flowing into our country, much of it coming from the southern border. When you look and when you listen to politicians, in particular certain Democrats, they say it all comes through the port of entry. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's just a lie. It's all a lie. They say walls don't work. Walls work 100%.
And by the way, hit pause.
Whether
you know they've got a bunch of synthetic heroin that's 100 times stronger. It's got different names out of China. China officially mails that in mass, and it gets shipped in, and it's a war. They execute you in China if you even have that stuff. Because they went through, they were taken down when opium got imported through the fake drug war and all the rest of it, in the Boxer Rebellion, but that's history, hundreds of years ago. They're hitting us with heroin, synthetic heroin, 100 times stronger. Let's continue.
walls work 100%. Whether it's El Paso, I really was smiling because the other night I was in El Paso. We had a tremendous crowd. And I asked the people, many of whom were from El Paso, but they came from all over Texas. And I asked them, I said, let me ask you, as a crowd, when the wall went up, was it better? You were there, some of you. It was not only better, it was like 100% better. You know what they did. But that's only one example. There are so many examples. In El Paso, they have close to 2,000 murders right on the other side of the wall.
Oh, yeah, let's stop right there. The media says Trump made it up that El Paso used to be really dangerous. El Paso is under martial law. It's been under martial law since Pancho Villa. And the police there, dealing with the cartels and things over the years, if you kill somebody, they just kill you and bury you. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. But the idea that it's safe, well, yeah, because it's under unofficial martial law. right over the border. It's not 2,000 murders, Trump. They found tens of thousands of graves. Back when Texas Monthly was a real magazine, I was a kid reading about all the mass graves across the border in El Paso and the severed heads. I mean, everybody knows about Mexico. But the idea that the Snopes fact checkers say that it's the safest city in the country. Yeah, El Paso is pretty safe because the police will kill you like that. And the U.S. Army's and Joint Task Force 6 is there. They have thousands of Army hitmen in the city. And anyone that's had family in the military knows that. And the cartels are crazy. They'll still keep trying to kill people and kidnap. And when they do, the U.S. military kills them. Let's continue.
The other side of the wall. And they had 23 murders. It's a lot of murders. But it's not close to 2,000 murders, right on the other side of the wall in Mexico. So everyone knows that walls work. And there are better examples than El Paso, frankly. You just take a look almost everywhere. Take a look at Israel. They're building another wall. Their wall is 99.9% effective, they told me. 99.9%. That's what it would be with us, too. The only weakness is they go to a wall and then they go around the wall. They go around the wall and in. Okay? That's what it is. Very simple.
And Saudi Arabia doesn't take one glorious Palestinian or glorious Somali lecturing us how much we suck, but they're battling to get in the country. All right, Stuart Rose is about to get here. He's coming to the studio. We're going to play more Trump's speech, the national emergency. Some heads are going to roll. Well, we already know half the black people in this country never get out of their mother's womb. Their heads are rolling. Nobody ever thinks about that. You think we're safe when children aren't safe? And I get calls from the media like you're against the KKK and you're against aborting black babies, but you talk about racist black gangs attacking people. Yeah, I'm against racist black people. I'm against racist white people. It's not like I'm on some team. I'm on Team Humanity. We're going to go back to Trump and Stuart Rose a little bit late in traffic. Will be your next segment. Founder of Oath Keepers, constitutional lawyer, patriot. We're going to be talking to him about this national emergency. He'd been pushing for it hard, so have I. We're going to open the phones up next hour as well on this Thursday, Friday edition. My goodness, Thursday, Friday. Friday, February 15, 2019. Time is certainly flying. But before I go back to Trump, I planned every segment today to wear a different T-shirt, and I just get too focused in the news and don't do it. But if you're a TV viewer, you can see it. It's Don't California My USA. And it's got Infowars.com on the right hand shoulder with the American flag. And again, a lot of TV viewers are like, why are you always telling us what we're seeing? Our main audience is still radio. So I have to describe it. Don't California My USA, Infowars.com, and the American flag. And does this one have something on the back? Oh, I guess it's got the Infowars symbol as well there on the left shoulder. The right shoulder is the American flag. And we've got a bunch of other just amazing shirts. And when you purchase them, you fund the operation. There's no reviews of this shirt because it just came in. It's brand new. And without you funding us, we will not be here. And again, even if you're not a big T-shirt person, we have some for women as well. Gold foil, Moen Lobby shirts that women love. We're going to get some more shirts for women. Women have really been requesting it. But these shirts are all unisex, which will make the leftist happy. But we have some for the more of the female cut. They're quite nice. My wife likes to wear them around. And it's kind of choose your own adventure. And I've tried to explain this before. You wear a big, in-your-face, red Infowars shirt. In fact, click on that one right there, the red Infowars. That's about as obnoxious as you're going to get. And you're going to meet a lot of friends and a lot of cool people. Look at that. It's got a bunch of reviews, 5 stars, 100% review. American flag, Infowars.com, Infowars.com on the front. Things on the back, too. Let's look at the back. That shirt is the best seller. And that's for people that really want to, go out and exercise the First Amendment. But if you wear just an IW hat, only patriots know what that is. And then you're just getting the love, not the hate. Or if you wear a Moen Lobby, you don't think leftists can speak Latin or know that means come and take it. No. I mean, all they do is talk about how smart they are and listen to NPR and the little snake voices all day. So we've got over 100 T-shirts. Some are steadfast. One design I made 20 years ago, 22 years ago now. Mass murderers agree, gun control works. I sat there on Photoshop and put Hitler, Stalin, and Mao by each other. And on the back it says, politicians love disarmed peasants, which I got from a bumper sticker. But then we've got all these great designer shirts with George Washington and Abraham Lincoln on them. So we've got high-end shirts that are great. You know, it would be $50 at the mall. They're $25 here. We've got other shirts that are as low as $9.95. It's all there. It's all there. Trump 2020. Won't tread on me. Reelect 45. Bill Clinton's a rapist. Hey, show them the George Washington. That's really good, soft, high-quality fabric. That's one of my favorite shirts I wear. It is the George Washington. And it's him from his, before French and Indian War, when he was a colonial scout expanding the frontiers, and as a scientist and as an engineer, he was out there surveying. And so that's kind of the George Washington with a tomahawk and a musket in his hand. A great shirt. And like I said, the fabric's so good and it's so high quality. I think the shirt cost me like $7, $8. And so for $19.95, it is a great deal. The point is, you don't buy the products, we don't spread the word, we lose. You get them, we win. But, I mean, it's an adventure. Don't California my USA. Who would want to wear a shirt like that? Or Alexandria Cortez as the dog that she is. I mean, it's insulting our canine friends, but, you know, she said, we'll have you subpoenaed or arrested, Donald Trump Jr., because you said socialists eat their dogs, capitalists walk them. So I said, okay, well, we'll just put that shirt out. And I predicted it to be a bestseller. It is. And this, I've done 2 runs. This is the last run. We're going to come out with a new variant of a Cortez shirt. But this limited edition is about to go the way of the Goonie bird, which means extinct. So if you want it, InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And please don't forget, if you're listening on local AM and FM stations or watching on TV, it is vital you tell people about it and that you text message folks and that you email. That's where the censor still can't block you. And I'm not complaining like, please do this, please do that. It's the animating, joyful joy of war, joy of fighting back with the truth, standing up for the unborn, standing up for the Second Amendment, standing up for sovereignty, and realizing they want to bully us, they want to intimidate us, they want to shut us up, and we're just not going to do it. 2 big specials in this Sunday because we're low on Brain Force Plus, our nootropic. It's our best-selling overall. It's not our most profitable, but it is the best-selling. We sell more bottles than anything else of Brain Force. 50% off, partnered for 33% off together with Turbo Force. Brain Force Plus is a nootropic and is amazing. Focus, clarity. But then Turbo Force is everything. And it's long delivered, healthy, natural energy with the vitamins, with the minerals, with the amino acids, and other cofactors that deliver it through the blood-brain barrier and into the body. So InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, but just viewer discretion advised. You need to take probably a half packet the first time you take it because I set out to make the strongest, healthy, beyond energy drink, beyond pre-workout, and that's Turbo Force. So you get it by itself, 33% off. Get 33% off with Turbo Force, with Brain Force Plus, 50% off. And now, it's very simple. The average high-end energy bar cost them over $1 to produce. They sell them at Whole Foods for $5 or $6 or $7. We went to top manufacturers, top developers, and said, we want the very best, high-quality, organic, best tasting. We did a bunch of beta testing, different companies, with the crew and others, even did some focus groups. We came up with protein bar from InfoWars Life. And it's in the vanilla coconut, which is my favorite, and also like the chocolate peanut butter. But, I mean, I'm not a big peanut butter guy. I don't hate peanut butter. It's just not my thing. They're both excellent. People go, my God, I've never had a protein bar that's good. I'm like, I know. We went out and said, what's the top-rated bars in the country? And how do we top them and then cut the price? So they come in 12 packs. There's no reviews yet, but believe me, the reviews are going to be amazing. If you'll just buy your coffee and buy your protein bars and buy your toothpaste from us, it's all high quality, it's all high end, it's all really good, and it stands in the way of the global. So I'm done plugging for this hour, but InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. And I want to, again, thank the listeners because I know they're trying to shut us down, trying to block us everywhere, but you It's like literally I'm Houdini in a tank chained up. Only you can screw the top off of the thing and get me out of here. And by getting me out, you get yourself out, because Lord knows we beat Hillary. Lord knows we relaunched 1776 worldwide. Lord knows you did it. And now they want my head in a basket. Well, they're not going to get it without a big old fat juicy fight. And we've already had some big victories, but I think we've got some even bigger ones coming. Keep me in the game. Stuart Rhodes, Patriot, head of Oath Keepers, is just now pulling up. He'll be in the next segment. I think he's here right now. And I want to open the phones up next hour on any issue you want to cover, but really I think the mainstay with the guests we're going to have is the constitutional emergency, the national emergency, what's happening on the border, the president's absolutely authorized, and just everyone overuses the term bombshell. But it's bombshell when the governor of Virginia says we're going to kill babies after they're born. And the different states are signing that into law as we speak. New York's already done it. And it's bombshell, to use that term from World War I, explosive, that Pelosi said, hey, watch out, Democrats might declare an emergency and take the guns. She said that in some black Darth Vader outfit today. I already played it. We'll play it again with Stewart's here. And see, we kind of just get punch drunk to this. Like, what? You're going to kill babies after they're born now? And, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, 3-year-old kids are putting money in G-strings of fat dudes at gay bars. And vice versa. And it's like, you're like, yeah, that Jones is crazy, Howard Stern said. He says little kids are at gay bars dancing for men. And they all laugh about it, and they don't tell you, no, that's actually happening. I'm not the crazy one. It's like, yeah, Jones is crazy. He says that the British government worked with Jimmy Savile, and he raped hundreds of dead children and also killed children, but they'd have sex with the kids at parties at the hospital. And then people go look it up, and they go, my God, that's true. Yeah. See, I'm not the weirdo. I'm not taking the DMT and the ayahuasca in San Francisco and at military bases, and I'm not talking to aliens. I've never done that. They think they are. And these aliens tell them, hey, go murder children and we'll give you more power. Now, I think of that as a demon, don't you? But, I mean, I'm not the one in contact with Mescalito. I'm not the one doing this. I'm reporting what's going on. I know it's insane. It's like Senator Menendez says. People that are here illegally that drunk drive, they're not criminals. You're like, so drunk driving isn't a criminal act now? And being here illegally? No, it's not. We played the clip. You're like, well, that doesn't make sense. That's discrediting. No, they're overriding logic. They're overriding judgment. They're breaking our will. They're doing it on purpose because they're taking over. They're engaged in criminal activity. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, today, Trump highlighted angel moms as Jim Acosta claims border crisis manufactured and there is no caravan. He did it again. So let's go back to the president declaring the national emergency that we told you about back in October. Next year's news today. Here it is.
They go around the wall and in. Okay? That's what it is. Very simple. And a big majority of the big drugs, the big drug loads, don't go through ports of entry. They can't go through ports of entry. You can't take big loads because you have people. We have some very capable people, the Border Patrol, law enforcement, looking. You can't take human traffic, women and girls. You can't take them through ports of entry. You can't have them tied up in the back seat of a car or a truck or a van. They opened the door.
Back it up 10 seconds. Thanks. Remember just last week, seems like 100 years ago? Was it last week or was it Monday? The State of the Union, was it Tuesday? What day was State of the Union? It already seems like 100 years ago, just a couple days ago. You've got Cortez and you've got Harris and you've got Pelosi not standing up when he says we busted 3,000 women that had been kidnapped and hundreds of kids. We freed them, and they wouldn't stand up. They looked all pissed. because these people want to kill babies for their organs. They're getting money from the cartels. Even mainstream news is now reporting the Democrats are getting money from the Mexican mafia and MS-13. They have no bottom. They will destroy this country. Even Amnesty International reports 80% of women coming from Central America through Mexico get raped. We're always hearing about how bad American culture is. And I'm not even attacking Mexico. It has good Christian people there, but there's a certain percentage of the public that thinks raping women is normal. So if the Muslims are doing it, they're good. If the Mexicans are doing it, they're good. If we're not raping, statistically very much in the U.S., we're all rapists. In fact, Gillette says, and feminists say, if you say, hey, ma'am, you're very attractive, or you seem like a nice person, who are you? Talking to a woman is rape. But if you rape them, or cut their genitals off, as long as you go, and wear a hood over your head, everything's okay. If you're a suicide bomber, then it's cool. It's like, oh, God, you're blowing your kids up. My God, you're Palestinian. You're wonderful. You blow your kids up with TNT wrapped around them. Man, oh, you're such a good person. Teach me how I can be in Islam, please, right now. Can I learn about suicide bombing right now? Sorry, let's go back to the president.
Girls, you can't take them through ports of entry. You can't have them tied up in the back seat of a car or a truck or a van. They open the door. They look. They can't see three women with tape in their mouth or three women whose hands are tied. They go through areas where you have no wall. Everybody knows that. Nancy knows it. Chuck knows it. They all know it. It's all a big lie. It's a big con game. You don't have to be very smart to know. You put up a barrier, the people come in, and that's it. They can't do anything unless they walk left or right, and they find an area where there's no barrier, and they come into the United States. Welcome. We've detained more people. Our border agents are doing such incredible work. Our military has been incredible. We put up barbed wire on top of certain old walls that were there. We fixed the wall and we loaded up with barbed wire. It's very successful. But our military has been fantastic, and I want to thank them. And it's very necessary. We've broken up 2 caravans that are on their way. They just are breaking. They're in the process of breaking up. We have another one that we haven't been able to break up yet. We've been actually working with Mexico much better than ever before. I want to thank the president. I want to thank Mexico. They have their own problems. They have the largest number of murders that they've ever had in their history. Almost 40,000 murders. 40,000.
200,000.
And they got to straighten that out, and I think they will. But I just want to thank the president because he's been helping us with these monstrous caravans that have been coming up. We had one that was up to over 15,000 people. It's largely broken up. Others have gotten through. And in Tijuana, you have a lot of people staying there. If we didn't have the wall up and if we didn't have the wall secured and strengthened, they would have walked right through. They'd be welcome to the United States. One of the things we'd save just a tremendous amount on would be sending the military. If we had a wall, we don't need the military because we'd have a wall. So I'm going to be signing a national emergency. And it's been signed many times before. It's been signed by other presidents. From 1977 or so, it gave the presidents the power. There's rarely been a problem. They sign it. Nobody cares. I guess they weren't very exciting. But nobody cares. They signed it for far less important things in some cases, in many cases. We're talking about an invasion of our country with drugs, with human traffickers, with all types of criminals and gangs. We have some of the greatest people I know. They've been with me from the beginning of my campaign, almost from the first week, the angel moms. Unfortunately, we have new angel moms. One incredible woman just showed me her daughter, who we're talking about, killed in the year of 18. I said, I haven't seen you before. She said, no, I'm new. I said, that's too bad. It's too bad. It's so sad. Stand up just for a second. Show how beautiful your girl was.
And Jim Acosta says this doesn't exist. Nobody's getting killed in Mexico.
Thank you. I have such respect for these people. Angel moms, angel dads, angel families. I have great respect for these people. These are great people. These are great people. They're fighting for their children that have been killed by people that were illegally in this country.
And by the way, more and more of the drug gangs are the shadow army of the Democrats, but more importantly, Antifa is. The Portland city just voted to kick the FBI out of the city, which I'm normally going to say, well, that's states' rights, but because the FBI is investigating Antifa attacking and killing people. Because a lot of the city council employees are Antifa. They are a criminal group. So they are now, the city openly backing a paramilitary brown shirt force.
Angel families, I have great respect for these people. These are great people. These are great people. They're fighting for their children that have been killed by people that were illegally in this country. And the press doesn't cover them. They don't want to, incredibly. And they're not treated the way they should be. They're fighting for other people because they don't want what happened to their children or husband or anybody. We have one young lady whose husband, please, stand up. Your husband was just killed in Maryland. Incredible man, just killed. Beautiful children won't be seeing their father again. These are brave people. These are people that they don't have to be here. They don't have to be doing this. They're doing it for other people. So I just want to thank all of you for being
By the way, what Trump's doing here is really important. He's humanizing. The media will never cover people killed by illegal aliens.
70,000 Americans.
All right, Stuart Rose, we're going to get to more of his declaration a few hours ago. And, of course, you're a constitutional law graduate, have practiced law, but you've dedicated yourself now to Oath Keepers that you founded. But, you know, specifically as a veteran and a patriot, I mean, you wanted Trump to declare an emergency, but you're saying he didn't have to do it through the 70s law.
No, he didn't have to use the 1976 Declaration of Emergencies Act. He could have just pointed to his responsibilities as the commander-in-chief. In fact, he didn't have to declare emergency at all. All he had to do is issue the orders to the military to go to the border and secure them against the military enemies. The cartels are unconventional warfare.
The president doesn't need authorization if the Chinese launch ICBMs.
Well, precisely.
And so if the border's being overrun, he doesn't have to go, you know.
Well, yeah, and the cartels are international terrorists. They use the force and threat of force to control terrain inside of Mexico. They're very much like Pancho Villa was.
They use terror.
Yeah, they use terror. And inside the United States, along the border, along the entire border, there are towns that are half illegal alien. Just the other day, I was down in Eagle Pass, and a Marine Corps veteran and law enforcement veteran there gave us a tour and let us know that half the citizens, half the people there are illegal aliens. 20,000 American citizens, another 20,000 illegal aliens. And the cartel runs that town. They control everything. And so they use force, threat of force to control behavior and control politicians. That's the current definition in federal law of terrorism. And they are international. So they're an international terrorist organization. He should say they are just like ISIS, just like Al-Qaeda. They are international terrorists in the war on terror, the global war on terror, and they're unconventional warfare, fourth-generation warfare military opponents of the United States who are taking over territory in Mexico and in the United States.
And by the way, you and I have been big opponents of creeping, mission creep, martial law, police state. This is the opposite. Letting cartels take over is the definition of a foreign terroristic police state. It's the duty of the executive branch and the president to stop it.
It's the primary function of government is to preserve life, liberty, and property, and to guarantee to our posterity the blessings of liberty. National defense is the most important function of our government and the most important function of the president as commander-in-chief. That's why in Article 2 it says he will be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and of the militia, and that's us, when called into service, period. And he has obligation and duty to carry out all of the guarantees, including guaranteeing each state a Republican form of government. It says there that the national government will guarantee to each state a Republican form of government. If you have the cartels taking over your counties and towns and your sheriff departments and your police chiefs, how is that a Republican form of government?
And as you know, for 10 years, Arizona, 30, 40, 50 miles in, has signs saying, do not go down, we're talking concrete roads in some cases, this is controlled by cartels.
Exactly. We can't guarantee your safety. We advise you not to camp here.
So the U.S. has been, for over a decade, giving up continental United States territory.
Precisely. And it's exactly a direct parallel to 1916 when you had Pancho Villa. There was a civil war in Mexico after the Mexican
Hold
Revolution.
on, let's recap it with Stuart Rhodes, who again has his law degree and is an expert on this, also worked in Congress, to get into where we currently are, what the president needs to do next. But I think this is a big step in the right direction. I don't want to give the president too much heat for this, but you're right. It's not even an emergency. It's his duty. Stuart Rhodes, founder of Oath Keepers, Army veteran, good friend of mine. Known him probably 16, 17 years since he started the organization. And, of course, a Yale law graduate, used to practice law, don't do that anymore, full-time. What's going on at the nation fighting for its survival. And some stations don't carry the last 5 minutes, so let's recap this. We're not criticizing the president. Overall, I think what you're saying is we're defending what he's done, but he doesn't need this 1970s law to declare this emergency when the continental country's being threatened and the UN's running it and things are collapsing. You've got drug cartels taking over major towns all over the Southwest. He better be doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he needs to do it as the commander-in-chief, though, instead of putting it only in the box of fighting crime, and, drugs and human trafficking. He needs to articulate the reality that the cartels are military enemies. And the direct parallel, which is very important, is Pancho Villa. And Pancho Villa and his bandits took over northern Mexico. Mexico City could not stop them, could not control them. Just like today, Mexico City can't stop the cartels. And when Pancho Villa raided...
So you don't play games and stuff, you just wipe them out.
Well, yeah, when Pancho Villa raided into Texas and killed 18 Americans, the cartel has killed far more than that, obviously.
Thousands.
Yeah, thousands. And so President Wilson, in 1916, responded to this situation by sending the U.S. military down, and National Guard down to the border to secure the border. And then he sent General Blackjack Pershing into Mexico to take it to Pancho Villa and go hunt him down. So that's what they did back then. It was a military defense of the nation. And
again, it's a defense. We're not even, it's not a technical invasion to take the country. You have to go into the base and take it out.
Well, yeah, because Mexico City could, the nominal leader of Mexico at the time, the president of Mexico, could not control his own territory, could not control Mexico. And so the U.S. Army had to go do it. And we're in a similar situation. Mexico City does not control northern Mexico. The cartels do.
That's right. Mexico is a fallen, failed state.
It's a fallen narco state, a failed narco state. I mean, we just heard in the El Chapo trial that the prior president of Mexico got a $100 million bribe. So you could even say that right now Mexico is being run by the cartels. Much like the Taliban took over Afghanistan, the cartels have taken over Mexico. But if you want to give respect to the Mexican government, you can say, well, look, either you have to fix this or we will. And they have failed to do it. And so we could.
Now, let's be clear. We don't want to invade Venezuela. We don't want to invade Mexico. But we can't fight it on our border. If they're failed, collapsed states, it's like building a seawall from the Gulf of Mexico. It's like we have to go in there and stop it.
You may have to. I think President Trump, and especially given the reality of the absurdity of the courts in the United States interpreting the asylum laws to allow anybody who sets foot on U.S. soil to be automatically processed for asylum and then cut and released in the United States, he may have no choice but to go into Mexico to stop them there and to take it to the cartels to prevent them from getting on U.S. soil. But even if he doesn't do that right now, he should articulate this. He shouldn't say, I'm going to go, try to find and scrounge up money that's discretionary as the president to enforce the laws. What he should say is, as commander-in-chief, I'm going to use that massive military budget we have of $1.3 trillion, and I'm going to use that just like I do in Korea. We guard the DMZ in Korea. We guard the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
But we can't guard our own border.
We can't guard our own border. It makes no sense at all. We used to have the Army on the border. That before there was a border patrol, it was the obligation and duty of the U.S. Army. There are forts every 50 miles along the border staffed by Army soldiers. That's what we have to get back to, because that's what it's going to take.
And by the way, there were a couple million illegal aliens here. It was out of control with what they were doing. And Eisenhower, in like a month, rounded them all up. I mean,
right, back in the 50s.
I mean, it wasn't a joke. It was just like...
Yeah, he did it. And so, I think President Trump, I think what he's trying to do the right thing, but my suspicion is, as we all know, is he is surrounded by deep state agents. We just learned of an attempted coup to use the 25th Amendment, and I'm sure he still has people like that.
And how crazy, like used to, that'd be a huge story. Now it's like, oh yeah, there was a 25th Amendment coup, and they tried to do this, and yeah, they're on the payroll of the Chinese, the government. I mean, it's like, wow, we are so sold out.
Exactly. And as Alan Dershowitz said last night on Tucker Carlson, that was clearly a coup. It's, the constitutional remedy, if you believe the president is committing felonies, is to go and
Impeachment.
Right, impeachment. That's a constitutional remedy. The 25th Amendment is all about incapacity. Is the president injured, like when Reagan was shot? Is he able to...
Yeah, that's only 1 degree away from blowing the president's head off when you're trying to use 25th Amendment and all that.
Sure. Well, they're removing him through an unconstitutional means, and they're doing it by collusion between the DOJ and his own legal counsel and the FBI behind his back. It's like 7 days in May.
I want to get to that in the next segment because that's really big, and I'm glad you brought that up because we just get punch drunk to the insane times we live in. That's validated everything we've been warning of, everything we talked about. But we were always used to having a globalist in office. It's the weird juxtapose of we've got a quasi, guy trying in there, and he's under siege, we're under siege, but we're winning in many ways because we've kind of fought him to a stalemate. And then you've got the paradox, though, of the Democrats not standing when Trump says we saved 3,000 women and hundreds of kids in sex slavery and, we're stopping child pornographers, and then they won't stand up for that. It shows. And then, MS-13 are God's children. I know Democrats locally in Austin. They all run illegal immigration chains. They're dealing drugs. They're feeding on the poor underclass they're bringing in. But, I mean, we have to understand the Democratic Party has fully converted to an insane mafia.
It's like mass gaslighting. They're doing all these things right in front of your face, and then they tell you that's not happening. There's no crime on the border. There's no one being murdered on the border. Like today during the press conference. Right.
These are real mothers holding up their dead kids, and Acosta says it doesn't exist.
There's no crime there, even though they're right in front of him. So it's like...
Well, let him actually go down to the border for real and not just walk around behind a wall and see how much crime there is.
Sorry. Oh, absolutely. Well, that's the problem is that the president has gone down to the border, but what he needs to do is basically what we did yesterday, what we did about a month ago, fly along the border. He should do a live stream. Here's the border. He should go interview ranchers on the border. He should take the time to go down there and put that up on.
He should meet the ranchers, and we'll talk about that in their attempted coup against Trump, which, again, we talk about it so much now, they just all confirm. We're like, hey, we told you this. Now it's confirmed. But here's the deal. I'm anti-police state, and I want due process here in America. And I push for that. But on your border and in a war, we never won a war playing games with a bunch of lawyers. And we win wars carpet bombing people. And Mexico's already being carpet bombed by the cartels. We're already collapsing into this. So I just don't know, with such a leftist press spying on the military and our police, I don't know how we're supposed to smash the cartels for once and for all and ever win that. I mean, we have to smash them. We have to exterminate them, or it's going to keep coming back.
Well, he has to recognize that we are facing really a perfect storm of an invasion and an insurrection against our laws by their inside the gates traitors of the Constitution, the sovereign of the sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, and all along the border you have compliant Democrat politicians who are in the back pocket of the cartels, and also like the La Raza types are ideologically motivated to. It's a terrorist
narco state that's basically brown KKK.
Absolutely.
I mean, their group is for those in the race, everything; those outside the race, nothing.
Right. So
that's literal Hitler stuff.
So you have the cartels in allegiance with radical Marxists and globalists who want to destroy the United States
and radical Muslims. It's like Marxist, racist drug cartels in league with Muslims.
Precisely. All of them have the same common enemy, which is Western civilization, and they want to destroy the borders and tear down sovereignty.
So how do we counter this witch's brew? That's what I'm saying is we're already under attack. And I think people want Trump to take the gloves off.
Well, he has to, but he has to do it constitutionally. So he could call forth the militia, which include the National Guard and all of us as the militia to suppress the insurrection. He can call us forward to execute the law.
How do you vet that and stop infiltrators?
Well, you have your military veterans and your police officers first step up.
So, yeah, you have to go people who have a background. Because, I mean, look at the Trump rallies. They send in guys screaming racist stuff every time they're a Democrat. I mean,
sure.
I'm not against the militia, but they're going to infiltrate a classic militia.
Right. So what you do is...
This isn't 1776 where the British were somewhat honorable and didn't do stuff like that, and we didn't do it.
Right.
That was still false flagging.
Well, I think whether it's Governor Abbott here or President Trump could call up the militia and call on the military veterans and police officers first. And, of course, you're watching... You can do background checks. You can go watch their social media and see where they're at. You can weed out your actual white nationalist or your radical leftist.
And you'll find out who they are real quick.
Yeah, you can find out. Well,
let's talk about that, because, listen... More caravans are coming. 5 million tell Gallup they're coming. The country's under attack. Europe's already collapsed. We're not talking about militias and martial law for a joke. Pelosi says she'll threaten martial law and confiscate guns. We'll talk about that when we come back with Stuart Rhodes of Oath Keepers. Stay with us. All right, Stuart Rhodes, founder of Oath Keepers, Yale law graduate, patriot. He's here with us. And, I get mad at myself because I tell this story almost every week because it's so critical to understand the globalists. And as I got older, I realized it was true. It's like 10, 12 years ago, I was on a first-class airline flight, American Airlines, and one of the heads of one of the big three banks was there, and I said, oh, you don't fly on private jet? And he goes, no, too much hassle. I was visiting my dad, a retired general in San Antonio. And I'm kind of letting you know who it is, with it still being off record. He goes, is this off record, Alex? And he goes, the public's dumb, and you'd be best just to join us because they're going to adapt to being slaves. He goes, you don't adapt and overcome. You adapt to what we're doing. And the public, basically just as a bunch of idiots that doesn't deserve it. And I thought, well, that's later as I watch things, I'm adapting to governors on TV saying they kill babies after they're born. I mean, I don't like it, but I'm still just getting comfortable with that, being slapped in the face, hearing these evils. And then now, like you said, Mexico's hundreds of thousands dead, not 40,000 dead like Trump said. Hundreds of thousands. That's the State Department's own numbers. Most areas are lawless, super dangerous. If you have any money, you're kidnapped very quickly. 80% of women coming through there are raped. That's Amnesty International. It's a hellhole. And we're just here calmly talking about McCabe and them planning a 25th Amendment coup of the president, which confirms everything we knew was going on. And it's just like, don't people get that we're this close to there being no rule of law and then things just unravel very quickly, that Western cultures are rich and powerful because we know we're corrupt. We try to keep it in check. Once you put a bunch of clicks in, it's over. This country will unravel. It will fall apart. Like third world countries can't build nuclear reactors. They can't upkeep them. Our reactors will start melting down. And I'm not trying to scare people. Places like Venezuela can't run nuclear power plants, folks. They can't wipe their ass. And they were smart 50 years ago. They get lazy. They get dumb. Everyone gives up because there's no excellence. There's no leadership. So I'm ranting here. It's just that as a father of 4, you're a father of 6, gut level, historic level, everything, we have put up with far too much. And I know they're trying to break my will, even though I'm fighting hard. Imagine people that aren't even conscious. So let's get into the fact that they're currently trying to coup the president. They're admitting they're doing it. And then, as you said, we'll play the clip in a moment, Pelosi, you said it's not martial law, it's just dictatorship. She says, we'll declare an emergency and take your guns. What? And now we're kind of like, oh, well, they want our guns. They should deny it 10 years ago. Now the New York Times says, ban the guns, take them. And that's what I mean is they've radicalized so far that here's the problem. People say, well, we'll just submit. We'll just give it. They'll never stop pushing. There will be a bloody civil war. I don't want it. But they're not going to stop. And a certain percentage of Americans are not going to let the schools, like Jocelyn Elders wanted to do 20 years ago. Now it's made, take your 2-year-old and have the teacher sit there and, sexually abuse them. I mean, these people are freaks, and there's no limit to what they'll do. So what I'm saying is, Stuart, you can smell the blood in the air. We're going down a road of just death.
Right, and a couple of things. One is, in a way, it's good that they're going so over the top and jumping the shark, like Cortez with all her open articulation that, well, any Latino can come in the United States. There's no such thing as a border. We should just have a
everything's free. You don't have to work.
Everyone. So they're letting you know what their plan is. Their plan is of course, you understand that I come from a Hispanic background myself. My family came from Mexico originally, on my mother's side, but they came here and assimilated, became Americans. What Cortez is articulating is the Weather Underground identity politics strategy of
it's a Marxist ethos.
Sure, turning Americans who are Hispanic, trying to, against their own country. Of course, there were at least a quarter of the crowd in El Paso at the Trump rally was Hispanic, which was really nice to see. Those are patriotic Tejanos who believe in.
And notice the media didn't want to show the crowd.
No, they don't, and they won't. So that's part of their gaslighting. They don't want you to believe that there's anybody out there who supports Trump except for white people. The next inference is, well, they're all racist. At the same time, they want to bring in more people. They can't successfully brainwash all minorities. Many, and the walkway movement is a testament to this.
Well, statistically, blacks and Hispanics are turning towards capitalism in America.
Right. They failed to brainwash them and use them. They tried to use them.
And that's why they want the very lowest IQ, dumbest of the third world. Hurry, get in here, already pre-brainwashed at UN camps to make sure they're vetted.
Well, they want to bring in people who don't have our same history and our same culture, who are easier to manipulate. Absolutely right. Come from socialist countries. They want someone from Venezuela or Honduras or Guatemala who they think will vote Democrat. Now, whether they will or not, it could be a battle. But the best way to stop it is prevent them from doing what they want to do, which is flood us with people. And at the same time, they're instructing them not to assimilate. They're articulating in them, You know, fly your own flag, be proud of where you're from. The United States is oppressive. You have a right to be here because this is Chicano territory, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. America sucks, but get up here and get free stuff.
Yeah, America sucks, help us destroy it, basically. It's what they're doing. So what we have to do is realize the reality of that and make sure Trump also realizes it. He came close today in his press conference. He almost said this is a effort by the Democratic Party to bring in new voters. He should have said it because it's true. But at the same time, he should focus on the cartels. We have a chance with him right now to fix this peacefully, relatively peacefully, but he has to be aggressive. He needs to purge out the neocons and the deep staters in his own cabinet, first of all, to protect himself against a 25th Amendment coup. And then he also needs to purge out and clean out his DOJ so they'll go out there and act.
He must do it.
He must. He has to.
But here's the thing. MS-13, these people are so brainwashed, they love going to prison. And I'm not somebody that's, you know, we need to bring back the death penalty, and it needs to be due process, but done quickly, because these people need to be killed. I mean, people that, well, you know, MS-13 likes to kill little kids in rituals for the devil. I mean, that's part of their whole thing. So people that are into torturing, killing kids, we don't need to put them in prison and let them out in 5 years when they've committed a murder. They need to be killed. And I'm not a bloodthirsty person, but we need to kill these people.
Well, I mean, if you're waging war against them using the U.S. military on the border, it'd be a different paradigm. So it could get quite a bit more messy. And
I'm not trying to sound big boss here. I'm just saying, when you're faced with people that worship the Grim Reaper and torture children, you have to take the gloves off.
Well, there's mass graves full of women and children in Mexico. You know, once they use them up as sex slaves, they kill them. They don't. There's no retirement home for ex-sex slaves in Mexico. They're just killed and put in a mass grave. But what I was referring to, though, is what Trump should be doing is prosecuting the leftist NGOs and the politicians who are in his face violating federal law.
And that's the key when we come back. That's what they flipped out and threatened to take Lou Dobbs off the air when he had the head of Judicial Watch on going, we give billions to USAID that gives it to Soros to form these. It's public. And they went, oh, my God, take him off, because that's it. Just cut the funding.
Well, prosecute them for aiding and abetting illegal aliens and harboring them.
No, I agree. You're right. We've got to push it with prosecution, and then we get the cutting the money off. Exactly.
Right. Well, the money's, you can use RICO for that.
Why doesn't Trump do that? I mean,
because he has a DOJ that's controlled by deep staters, as we now know. They tried to do a coup against him. His own deputy attorney general was plotting to use a 25th
Ron Rosenstein.
Right. Yeah.
You could take one look at that guy and then his background. I mean, what scum?
Exactly. So he was plotting, and it's not just him being an outlier. It was him and the deputy director of the FBI together. Right. And who knows who else on his cabinet? We don't know.
And then the documents being released by Congress where these people are going to the State Department saying, we'll reclassify this as not top secret if you give us a European job in the State Department. I mean, you watch the country being sold out for nothing. These people are chicken you-know-whats. They are pathetic, and they must be removed.
Suggesting, Mr. President, there's a military plot to take over the government. This may occur sometime this coming Sunday.
There are some who will say it can never happen here. But this is the story of how it could happen. In 7 days of intrigue, of blackmail, of terror, an eternity of suspense. This is the astounding story of a military plot to overthrow the government of the United States, which, if successful, would change the fate of every American.
You're a nightcrawler, Colonel. A peddler. You sell information. Are you sufficiently up on your Bibles to know who Judas was?
Yes, I know who Judas was. He was a man I worked for and admired until he disgraced the 4 stars on his uniform.
7 days in May, the first day, when a Marine colonel wondered who was inciting screaming mobs in Madison Square Garden.
Antifa. Cortez.
The second day, that uncovered secret meetings in Washington's back alleys. The third day, when unknown men prepared to kidnap the president from his private vacation resort. The fourth day, that brought a secret presidential messenger to death in a plane crash in Spain. The day a senator of the United States was held against his will. The fifth day, when a woman found her past being used for blackmail.
Look, Ellie, if I could tell you why I
I'll
had to
tell
do
you
this, you'd
something.
understand.
I was a stupid, impressionable female who let an Air Force general use her like his personal airplane.
The sixth day, the discovery of a desert base for an airborne task force, kept secret even from the President of the United States. The seventh day, when the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff dared the President of the United States to stop the conspiracy that couldn't be proved.
You're not a weak sister, Mr. President. You're a criminally weak sister.
You say I've duped the people, General. I built them. I've misled them. I've stripped them naked and made them defenseless. You accuse me of having lost their faith, deliberately and criminally shut my ears to the national voice.
I do.
Well, where the hell have you heard that voice, General? In freight elevators? In dark alleys? In secret places in the dead of night? How did that voice seep into a locked room full of conspirators? That's not where you hear the voice of the people, General, not in this republic.
And I will not resign voluntarily.
I'm going to fight you.
And then we'll see which one of us the United States is willing to follow.
Corruption. It's Alex Jones coming to you live from the front lines of the Info War.
Not since the founding of this nation or the Civil War has this country been in more danger, and the whole world's in danger. Because Europe's run by total tyrants. China's run by people even more soulless than Hitler. And Stuart Rhodes, constitutional lawyers here with us. The founder of Oath Keepers, working hard in some really important operations here in Texas he can't get into on air. He'll be co-hosting some next week. But you mentioned this, so I thought I'd pull a few news articles. We can put up on screen for TV viewers. Just type in 25th Amendment coup, Infowars.com, and then click Google News or Google Web, and you'll get hundreds of articles we wrote last year. Hundreds. Rosenstein is plotting deep state coup against Trump. 25th Amendment. Let's move on. Coup d'etat now live. Deep state launches 25th Amendment plan to remove Trump. Now you know why they want us off air.
Right.
Why New York Times story about Rosenstein coup attempt is a setup. So now Alan Dershowitz is on Fox News last night. You mentioned it. Alan Dershowitz, Harvard lawyer, highly respected. He says the deep state using 25th Amendment to oust Trump is clearly an attempt at a coup d'etat. So next year's News Today, they don't want us off the air because we're lying. They want us off the air because we're over the target.
Yeah, exactly right. and I do think there's a chance that part of why this is coming out now is that they want to condition the public, just like conditioning you to accept infanticide. They want to condition people to say, well, you know, they did a 25th Amendment coup attempt and no one's prosecuted, and so it's on the table. And if it happens down the road, it happens. And a lot of the leftists are still talking about using it right now, openly.
And I remember they had full-page ads a year and a half ago in the New York Times saying, oust him, 25th Amendment coup. When I talked about it, they had articles saying, Jones made it up. It's not in the New York Times. And I had family read that, and they think, Alex, we believe you, but I had family go to places that have newsstands. And they went, son, it's, I had family come in, they go, son, it's full page. Why would they say on the news it's not in there? What is that military tactic of a dark side military where, I guess it's gaslighting, but what's the point when it's in million, I think there's 5 million papers a day put out. It was in all 5 million. People had it delivered to their doorsteps. My fed family literally go, I don't want to say who in the family, but they're like, I got a call and they go, they're saying that's not in the New York Times. Why are you saying that?
Well, it's right out of 1984, right? Like Orwell's 1984. Everyone knows they're in dictatorship, but it's the Ministry of Love, and Big Brother loves you, and even though you know your neighbor's been disappeared. So at the same time as they reveal to you, here's what's going to happen to you if you get in our way, they also gaslight you. Don't see what's in front of your face. Don't see the tyranny right in front of you.
Exactly, but if you're informed, the tactic is that it makes you upset, or I guess people that aren't as dogged as we are, I'm not bragging, I guess they kind of give up, or because there's got to be a reason they do this tactic. Like,
yeah. That's what it is. It's the ones who are awake and aware, they want them to become so demoralized that they just give up and hide, or they join forces, you know, come over the dark side, you were told, or the ones who are willfully ignorant and don't want to see it, they have an easy way to ignore what's in front of their face.
I got a couple of calls yesterday, and I'm not going to say who by, but some big people, and one of them was a major CEO, and they just said, listen, it was it's off record, so I can't say who. They go, this is your road to redemption, Alex. You're going to get destroyed. We don't want this to happen. It's not as bad as you think. There's a road for your redemption.
Right.
And so now they're saying, just fly to San Francisco. We have your road to redemption. Like, I can't even entertain selling out.
Right.
I mean, if it wasn't pedophilia-driven and radical Islam-driven and so evil, I mean, I'd make deals because I don't want to be destroyed, but I'm not making a deal with these people.
No, you can't. Because your soul is more important than anything else, right?
I just don't get how most men, and I'm not trying to act like, I don't get how most men have been so, like, kept in a fishbowl their whole life because they don't even know. They just think you kiss other powerful men's ass and you move up. They don't even know. It's like Louis Gohmert said to the head of Google, when he said, you just lie to us. I never, but maybe you're not lying. Maybe you've lived in the dark so long, you don't know what the light is. I just like, because they're like, well, why aren't you going to sell out? We're going to destroy you. And like, sell out to destroying everything? Like,
right.
Sell out to jumping off a cliff? It's like there's nothing to sell out to.
Right. Right. What are you going to do? You're going to live a few more years longer in peace and quiet and then give over your children and your children's children to slavery? Of course you won't. Can't do that.
But man, the average guys, that's successful is polishing their Porsche, messing with their trophy wife, and they just, I want to kick their ass. They're the people I really don't like. There's nothing wrong with playing golf or, having a good time, but these guys think not caring is like a shield. You see these strong, smart, good-looking guys might be able to kick my ass, have a higher IQ, but they don't have a spirit.
Right.
And I want to knock their teeth out.
I don't blame you. And they're the reason why the GOP just did what it did yesterday. They sold the American people down the river, and they gave the president what I think is a big bag of turd, frankly.
No, I agree. I like the emergency, but this whole DACA thing, Trump's starting to go sideways, and it really worries me.
Well, there's a provision in there that allows the communities on the border to say no to a wall. So you have these Democrat-controlled, cartel-controlled communities. Like I was just down at Eagle Pass the other day, and I asked our guide there, the Marine guide, I said, hey, what's the deal with the sheriff here? He said, well, he used to be a Border Patrol agent. I said, oh, that's good. So he's in favor of the wall? Oh, no, he's a Democrat, and he's opposed to the wall. It's obvious he's in the back pocket of the cartels. So you have these...
Oh, yeah, these guys all live in $1 million houses. And by the way, down on the border, that's like a $10 million house. We'll be right back. All right, let's recap all this because we're going to host 30 Minutes the next hour, and then best-selling author, former Navy SEAL, really smart guy, Matt Bracken's taken over. He's been hosting a lot. You're going to be guest hosting some next week. Stuart Rhodes here in Texas getting a lot done with Gary Haben and other great patriots. We're not up here trying to be dramatic, and that's my problem. And I keep going back to this mentally to the audience. Everything we ever warned of basically has happened. And now it's almost like, okay, it's real. Let's just all just sit back and see what goes on. No, folks, people need to be focused. They need to be involved. They need to be diligent. And I'm not here saying it's like work. And I'm not complaining at the audience either. It's just that we have to take action because I want you to give your view on this as a smart guy, historian, lawyer, veteran. You're a smart guy. And I mean that for new listeners tuning in. What's the world look like if they win versus if we can hold them back and at least push them back some? Because, evil's an ongoing problem. We're not offering a utopia like Cortez does. You don't have to work or everything's free and there's pie in the sky and chicken in every pot. But a good world, if we become moral again and get engaged versus where we're going.
It would look like Orwell said, vision of the future is the boot stamping on the human face forever. And you can look at northern Mexico and the absolute demonic mass murder that's happening and oppression of the Mexican people by the cartels. And that's your future. That's your future in a communist dictatorship. It's your future in a narco state, too, a cartel-run narco state. And you're going to get a combination of those two things. And your future is also what you saw in the caliphate with ISIS. That's your future as well. In fact, all three of those elements are at work in this country right now. You have all three demonic, possessed, totalitarian elements working together to overthrow our constitutional republic.
Why does Christianity, real Christianity, produce so much incredible wealth? Like Tutsis and Hutus, the Christian groups, less than 10%, they have almost all the wealth because Christianity allowed them to not kill each other and produce wealth. Beyond IQ, because some high IQ, some low, it's the real Christian ethos that creates fabulous wealth.
Yeah, the sanctity of the human soul, the sanctity of human life, and the belief that you have a self-determination, and that the only person you have to answer to is God, that there's no man God over you. Communism has a man God over you, so does the caliphate, and so does the cartel.
I remember being a little young and jealous or envious of things. The only thing I'm still jealous or envious of is, women. And that's genetic. But I was never like mad. The neighbor got a new motorcycle. Kid got a better motorcycle than I did, or better golf clubs. But it's so freeing now to not get mad that some guy's got a gorgeous wife or a bunch of great kids or more money than me or a private jet. I mean, it's so freeing that material's fine. I like to be successful and take care of my family, but it means nothing at the end of the day compared to ideas. But then I still run into most adults, and they're just seized up with envy and like, well, your house is a little bigger, or your pool, and it's like, not that any of those things are bad, but to them, it's like that's what they're shooting for, and they're so empty.
Right. Well, it's what the Bible talks about when he says that, a wealthy man will get into heaven much more easier or harder than putting an
camel through the eye of a needle.
Right. Because if you're worshiping just success and you're constantly grasping for more, you'll never be satisfied. What really counts is your everlasting soul. That's what really counts.
And of course, if you really go to the Bible, the historians, Christ was pointing at the Jerusalem wall. It was called the eye of the needle. The thing is a camel, and you had to get on your knees. It was a very small opening. So the point was, you had to be humble.
Right.
You can be rich, but you've got to get on your knees and not to God. You can't put the money top.
And that's why I think Christianity is so hated, is because that was the bedrock root of the conviction of our founding fathers to fight and bleed.
They fear the conviction that we serve God, not man.
Right. No king but Jesus. And they were willing to give their life up. And you had wealthy men who were willing, Hancock, for example, who were willing to give up their fortune and risk all. And George Washington was wealthy as well. These are wealthy men. Where are the modern versions of Hancock and Washington and Jefferson?
And as you know, the Brits were able to beat the Boers after a long war by grabbing their families. Many of the founders had their families taken and put on slave ships, starved to death. And they just let they're like, we're sad, but, they starved to death.
Well, if you have a conviction that what really counts is doing what's right, and that you're willing to give your life and even your family's lives because what really counts is your souls, then you don't give in.
And imagine being in Boston or New York and looking out at ships a mile out and knowing your sons are on that ship being starved to death, and you can't give up.
Right, you can't. Well, because if you do, then everyone loses everything. Even if you want to talk about just here on Earth, you're still talking about posterity, your future posterity.
So why did the founders do that? Literally let their families starve to death instead of giving up. That's powerful.
Right, because they knew that they had to preserve the sanctity of the human conscience and the human soul. Your ability to say yes or no, and someone can kill you, but they can't make you submit to them unless you submit yourself. So
let me ask you this, Stuart. Where are we going? Because Pelosi comes out and threatens to become a dictator. And well, here, let's play the clip. Cue up Pelosi. I mean, you talk about a monstrous person in her fascist dress. Here it is.
The Republicans have some unease about it no matter what they say, because if the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people. You want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, the one-year anniversary of another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence in America. That's a national emergency. Why don't you declare that emergency, Mr. President? I wish you would.
Even though gun crime's way down, what do you make of that, Stuart?
Well, it's a scare tactic. What she's trying to say is that, hey, you can't do this, and Republicans should oppose the president because he's opening the door for all kinds of problems. And I've even heard conservatives say, this is a problem, you shouldn't do this because they could do this down the road. If they're advocating something unconstitutional, like gun confiscation, then they can't do it under the Constitution. It doesn't matter what Trump does regarding something that's perfectly constitutional. This is why, self-defense of the nation and our borders, repelling an invasion is squarely constitutional. It's one of his duties. So I don't really give much concern for this being a bad precedent for down the road. If they go and try to use a national emergency, so-called, to confiscate firearms, it's unconstitutional, and then we just fight.
Well, I was about to say, but let's expand on that. The left is spoiling for some weird war and all these Antifa wimps. Can they imagine if they do start a war and the veneer of civilization peels away in seconds Do they understand that everything conservatives and Christians have done to build businesses and to serve their country and their family, that people have already, the public's already scouted everything out. And they don't want to do this, but everybody's going to know the moment. And then I don't think these leftists realize what's going to happen to them.
No, they don't. And I want to stress that I don't want that. Like right now I'm being smeared by Media Matters trying to say that, we talked about murdering leftists on a show prior, and sure. What we talked about is that if there's a civil war, they'll lose, and they'll force us to have to fight.
And they hate that.
Right. So so a lot of them, I think, know it. I think the elites understand they can't go too far too fast. So what they're trying to do is condition us, and they're waiting until one of them is commander-in-chief. They're not going to try something like this while Trump's in. They would prefer, if they're going to have an outright fight with us, they want to make sure that one of them is commander-in-chief. So that's why you got to watch out for a future Democrat as commander-in-chief under those conditions. Like with Hillary, if Hillary had won, I think all bets are off.
No, I agree. They were going to go over the censorship, everything. In fact, they're going ahead with it as if she had won. But here's the thing. I'm not an authoritarian. But when you're faced with authoritarianism, then what do you do? Because the Democratic Party is not an American party. They're a globalist, anti-American party. They say America was never great, it'll never be great. We shouldn't have borders. They're allied with foreign governments. I don't think they qualify as a party that could even be in the electoral system.
Well, what the president can do is he can use the Constitution to suppress the insurrection. He has an open insurrection in the entire state of California. The elected officials there with their sanctuary state, they're in open rebellion against the laws of the Union. And the clearest law of the Union that's very constitutional is the law against illegal immigration and harboring illegals. They're committing felonies. So what Trump could do is he could prosecute them through the DOJ, but he could also call up the militia to go and suppress the insurrection that's happening right now in California. He could do that. It's a constitutional power. That's the big.
Well, I know everybody I know that lives in California, especially Southern California, they say we're all trying to get out. I mean, it is a freaking hellhole. We're going to go to break, come back and take your phone calls. The toll-free number to join us with Stuart Rhodes is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. We're going to take a few-minute break here when we come back and play part of this Alan Dershowitz interview on Tucker Carlson last night, in case you didn't know that they really are trying a 25th Amendment coup against the president. That's now mainstream news. I mean, we told you the emergency was coming. We told you this was going on. We broke it almost a year ago, but now it's all confirmed. Fourth hour straight ahead. Stay with us, 877-789-ALEX. Please don't forget a bunch of big specials in this Sunday, InfoWarsStore.com. Thank you. We got some big breaking news at the start of the next segment. Lawmakers in Texas have introduced legislation for $2.5 billion to build a wall right here in Texas. So the states are taking action. Very, very exciting. Stuart Rhodes is with us. We've got, of course, Matt Bracken taking over at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to take your phone calls starting the next segment. But I want to play, since Stuart mentioned it, because you kind of pinch yourself. Like I was telling people in October, Trump should declare an emergency, and then I said he would a month ago, and now he's done it. But we got into the 25th Amendment coup plan against the president specifically and how it was being planned. And I'm just pointing out they want us off air because it freaks them out how accurate we are. But here's a liberal Harvard law professor, but very respected, one of the biggest winning records. You're a lawyer out there, on all sorts of fronts. Alan Dershowitz pointing out that this is an attempted coup against the president. We're living in amazing times, folks. So here is Alan Dershowitz, Infowars.com, Newswars.com. I should also, again, point out, everybody should visit oathkeepers.org. Here is Alan Dershowitz.
60 Minutes interview, McCabe admits that his attempt to undermine the president began almost immediately after his boss, Jim Comey, was fired. And it was, of course, due to Russia.
I was speaking to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia, our most formidable adversary on the world stage. And that was something that troubled me greatly.
How long was it after that you decided to start the obstruction of justice and counterintelligence investigations involving the president?
I think the next day I met with the team investigating the Russia cases, and I asked the team to go back and conduct an assessment to determine where are we with these efforts and what steps do we need to take going forward.
Alan Dershowitz is a retired Harvard Law School professor. He's the author of the book, The Case Against the Democratic House Impeaching Trump, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thanks very much for coming on. So now the suspicions of many are confirmed by one of the players in it. The Department of Justice discussed trying to remove the president using the 25th Amendment. What's your reaction to that?
Well, if that's true, it is clearly an attempted coup d'etat. Relating to what your former guest said, let's take the worst case scenario. Let's assume the President of the United States was in bed with the Russians, committed treason, committed obstruction of justice. The 25th Amendment simply is irrelevant to that.
Right.
That's why you have an impeachment provision.
Exactly.
The 25th Amendment is about Woodrow Wilson having a stroke. It's about a president being shot and not being able to perform his office. It's not about the most fundamental disagreements. It's not about impeachable offenses. And any Justice Department official who even mentioned the 25th Amendment in the context of President Trump has committed a grievous offense against the Constitution. The framers of the 25th Amendment had in mind something very specific, and trying to use the 25th Amendment to circumvent the impeachment provisions or to circumvent an election is a despicable act of unconstitutional power grabbing. And you were right when you said it reminds me of what happens in third world countries. Look, these people may have been well-intentioned. They may believe that they were serving the interests of the United States, but you have to obey the law, and the law is the Constitution. And the 25th Amendment is as clear as could be. Incapacity, unable to perform office. That's what you need. That's why you need 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate agreeing. And it has to be on the basis of a medical or psychological incapacity, not on the basis of even the most extreme crimes, which there's no evidence were committed. But even if they were, that would not be a basis for invoking the 25th Amendment.
So this is not simply right.
And I challenge any left-wing person to get on television and to defend the use of the 25th Amendment. I challenge any of my colleagues who are in the Get Trump at Any Cost camp to come on television and justify the use of the 25th Amendment other than for physical or psychiatric incapacity.
I bet they're doing that right now. But this is an attack on our system, I would say, not just on the president. Alan Dershowitz, thank you very much.
We'll be back. Stay with us. All right, we're going to take phone calls for a couple segments with Stuart Rhodes of Oath Keepers. I'm Alex Jones, your host. And then we're going to turn the baton over for the rest of the broadcast till the war room starts to Matt Bracken. And, of course, Matt likes Stuart Rhodes, so they may talk a little bit in the next segment as well. Don't forget, oathkeepers.org. You're doing a membership drive. People can also buy T-shirts there to support the great work you're doing, Stuart, as a constitutional, Yale law graduate and as a veteran and a patriot just doing yeoman's work. And people, I always get these comments and talking about the membership drive, this paradox. They go, oh, you and Stuart Rhodes, they'll bring you up. They go, you claim you're against the police state. Now you want troops on the border and you want to go after the cartel. Yeah, we don't want checkpoints in the middle of Kansas or New York randomly. When you've got a collapsing border and narco-terrorists allied with radical Islam attacking and hundreds of thousands dead in Mexico and the Democrats working with MS-13, that's constitutional. Yeah. That's what the military and police are supposed to do. They're not supposed to be asking me if my tent's too dark in my car. They're supposed to be dealing with criminals.
Well, they have to defend the nation. The primary purpose of the military is national defense, which is defending our country. And in Article 1, Section 8 articulates the 3 reasons the president can call forth the militia, which includes us, is to repel invasions, suppress insurrections, and execute the laws of the Union. And ever since the Civil War in particular, there's been a series of statutes that give the president the authority to even use the armed forces for those purposes. I wouldn't want to see them used internally. I think it's actually unconstitutional to use the army internally.
Posse Comitatus.
Yeah, it's the militia, not just the Posse Comitatus, the U.S. Constitution. It's the militia that's tasked with suppressing insurrections.
It should be like civil defense, it's militia.
Well, no, suppressing insurrections, executing the laws of the Union. There should be no FBI, frankly. It should be the militia who execute the laws of the Union under the command of the president, as Dr. Edwin Vieira has pointed out many times in a series of books. I recommend them very much.
People say, oh, we need professionals. What, like the FBI?
No, exactly. Look how corrupt they are. I mean, COINTELPRO back in the day, you can go back to what they did.
And people never get that. So who commands the constitutional militia? It's not just like it's random, I know every man's in it, but it's picked, it's selected.
Well, no, it's the governors of the state command the militias unless they're called into federal service, and they're called into federal service for only 3 legitimate purposes. One is to suppress insurrections, called forth by the president of the United States. 2, to execute the laws of the Union, and the 3rd is to repel invasions. Now, he can also use the standing Army and Marine Corps to repel invasions, of course. That's what the Marine Corps is. That's what the Army and Marine Corps are for. and the U.S. Navy and Air Force. You could repel invasions using the military.
Yeah, therefore, what's happening now?
Right, on the border. So you could use all of those. You could use the Army and Marine Corps, Air Force, the standing military, and you could also use the National Guard, which is part
But I just want to explain that in the classical thing, 18 to 45 or whatever, under the governors, it's almost like the state guard. It's former police, military, or people that are vetted. I get every able-bodied man's in it, but obviously nowadays, able-bodied men don't want to be involved. We're not just going to randomly grab some guy off the street and hand him a machine gun.
Well, the president could call up every able-bodied, still in federal statutes, every able-bodied male between 18 and 45 is in the militia. There's also a statute that says for military veterans up to age 65, they can be called up by the President of the United States. So even though the states have not formed militias, which they should, the President can call us up as the militia.
And there should be militias for firefighting and floods. It's for any crisis.
Sure.
Right?
Well, yeah, just like the National Guard does disaster relief, the militia would do the same.
Well, I was in the Civil Air Patrol.
Right.
And, we were flying around doing drills when I was a kid looking for submarines in the Gulf of Mexico. It didn't mean we're all paranoid or anything. That's just what you do.
Sure. And you still, in this state here, you still have your National Guard, which is your remnant of the militia, but you also have your state defense force. The Texas State Guard is a state defense force that cannot be called into federal service and sent overseas, which is good. So what Governor Abbott could do and should do is fill that with patriotic Texans and train the Texans. And us with prior military service, what we should do is take the responsibility of training our fellow veterans, our fellow citizens here in Texas, for example, and make sure you train them all up. So they're a trained pool of people, preferably under the command of the governor formally in the Texas State Guard, but then Trump could call them up. And
in a crisis, the governors line up on the president.
Sure. So you now have a bill in front of your legislature in Texas to build the wall, which is what
let's talk about that.
Absolutely.
Here it is. 2 Texas lawmakers call for $2.5 billion state funds for the border. That's Houston Chronicle.
And that's a brilliant solution because that gets right around, if the president does sign this monstrosity of a funding bill, which I think he should not, if he does, there's provisions in there that allow border counties to say no to a wall, which is ludicrous, because they're all controlled by the cartels and controlled by their Democratic allies. So what the governor of Texas is going to do, hopefully, is sign this bill, which will give Texas the authority to go down there and use eminent domain and pay the landowners for the taking of their property, build the wall under Texas statutes. The federal government can't touch it. The future Democratic president can't tear it back down. That's exactly what should happen. Because Texas has, at least half the border is in Texas? So you take care of that. God bless Texas. You guys fix it. And you should call up every Texan to step up, like in the Alamo, and go and serve as a Texas State Guard and go and patrol that wall.
Oh, I guarantee you, if the governor called for that, he'd get 100,000 volunteers in a month.
He should. We asked him to do that several years ago when he was first elected. We tried to reach him. His staff played blockage with him. So we hope that he'll hear the message and go ahead and call up Texans.
I'm going to go to calls, Stuart Rhodes, Oath Keepers, but it's clear that the UN is running this and trying to break our border. They didn't want the number of beds to take care of anything. They don't want judges. They want it broken.
Oh, absolutely. They want this is Cloward Piven on a global scale to destroy Western civilization. And I know Matt Bracken's been talking about this for years, and he's been completely spot on. That's what's happening. In Europe, we already see where we're going. What's happened to Europe is now happening in the United States. They're using the Central and South American countries.
And by the way, they admit it's the plan.
Yeah.
That's what's so frustrating is this is all admitted. People are like, oh, Alex Jones or Stuart Rhodes, it's admitted.
Well, so I'm glad, what's her name, AOC, Cortez?
Yeah.
I'm glad she's coming out and saying, we shouldn't even have a border because every Hispanic, anybody with Latino blood has a right to be here because it's indigenous territory. I'm glad she's saying that because she's now making it very clear this is what she wants to do. She is a La Raza. She's a La Raza fanatic. She's a communist fanatic who happens to come from New York.
Doesn't she look like she's on methamphetamine too?
Well, I think she's a radical Marxist, and that means she's batshit, crazy. So, but that's from her Marxism. She hates this country, and she's been indoctrinated.
But I love how she wears like $5,000 outfits. What is it about leftists? They're always like in luxury, multi-million-dollar apartments. They're wearing $5,000 outfits.
Well, they see themselves as the vanguard of the revolution, right? So the vanguard always gets the best. They always get the caviar and the Mercedes and the limousine liberals. So as long as they're in charge, it's okay.
Man, these people are sick. We got Eustace. And then we've got so many other callers. Eustace in Missouri, you're on the air with Stuart Rhodes. Go ahead.
How's it going, Stuart? Alex, thank you for fighting men. Years ago, Stuart, I put you in touch with Kevin Vanio up there to help Wren in Montana. And the FBI does need to be disbanded, and there's a good website you could just Google "I hate the FBI." But the reason I'm calling is I attended a speech last night from a gentleman that was a 31-year CIA agent, and he spoke at the College of the Ozarks here in Missouri, and I recorded it. And he tells them that they ask him about Snowden. He said Snowden's a traitor. He asked them about the investigation on Trump, and he told the young kids that they should continue to investigate Trump till they get to the bottom of it. He said Putin is a killer, and he told them how great it is to lie and that the CIA has a faith. And I would suggest everyone go listen to it. It's at Lone Star 1776, and they also advocate for the so-called domestic terrorist Francis Schaefer Cox, and he's up for resentencing, and we're calling.
Well, let's
for
be clear. These politicos in the CIA is a big organization. They're just globalist operatives that have used the National Security Act to take the country over. But yeah, they've got the CIA domestically involved now. They've legalized that 8 years ago. Obama did. And to even call this, I'm not even defending the CIA. They're not CIA. They're globalist collaborators in U.S. intelligence agencies all over the country preaching this anti-Americanism. And they're very dangerous. You want to say something about that, Sturt?
No, it's no surprise. I mean, look, the CIA has been part of the deep state since its inception. That's the problem. This is what Eisenhower warned about. It's part of the military-industrial complex that came after World War II.
And he didn't like them because it was just totally, it was just doing whatever they want. I mean, it's like you're under Congress's control.
Sure.
We'll be back with more calls and Matt Bracken. Stay with us. Infowars.com, newswars.com. We're taking your phone calls. We're going to go ahead and just co-host with Matt Bracken this hour. Stuart Rhodes and we're having important discussions behind the scenes here, that you have to talk about the operating system of the Democrats, who they are, why they're so crazed, why they hate the country, what powers them, how they go on television and celebrate killing babies after they're born, why they say America was never great. They run the country, but why do they have an existential hatred? Well, Matt Bracken, Stuart Rhodes, quick question for both of you, and we're going to go back to calls. And we can talk to the callers. Matt Bracken, enemiesforeigndomestic.com. You're with oathkeepers.org or with Infowars.com. And remember, folks, only your word of mouth gets those websites out now. The total censorship's here. So your word of mouth is what trumps what the enemy's doing. So please remember that. Why? What is the Democrat? What is the globalist operating system, Matt Bracken? And why, I'm not putting words in your mouth, I think you agree, do they have such existential hatred for the West? Is it the Christian ethos? What is it?
Yeah, definitely. You know, they say that they're atheists, but they're actually very religious. They're hyper religious in the same way that Islamists, you know, believe in forcing the Quran. They believe in Marxism, and part of Marxism is just like with Islam. They have socialist taqiyya, where because the ends justify the means, including, you know, pogroms in Russia or China or Cambodia. It certainly means that if they're willing to herd people in gulags and machine guns on them, they're certainly willing to lie to our faces. You know, the great reporter, so-called, who was considered the most trusted man in America, he was, you know, Walter Cronkite. He didn't, until he retired from television, did he admit he was a leader of the World Federalist Society. He hid that. He pretended to be a patriot. You know, he was there for all the rocket launches, but he was all the while acting like a termite. He was the guy that said in '68, Tet proves we've lost in Vietnam, when it was actually a wipeout of the Viet Cong. But he was, you know, all the way a termite, hiding it, pretending to be a patriot, while secretly his religion really was globalism. And he didn't reveal this until much later. And I would expect on their deathbeds, there are many acting, serving generals, senators, etc., that say, yeah, I got to pretend to be an American, but I'm a globalist. I'm a global secular statist. I worship the state.
Yeah, that's it. So,
anything
Stuart,
we have to do is justified.
How did Trump get in then? Because he definitely is making him mad, and he's not perfect, but he's trying to be the president. I think that's what makes him mad. What makes the leftists tick? What makes the globalists tick? And then how is Trump the wild card, or how does Trump fit in?
Well, as Matt Bracken said, there are devout Marxists. And they do see it as a multi-generational commitment. That's why they're willing to play the long game, and they did the long march through the institutions. This started way back in the late 1800s And they did that. They successfully took over academia, the legal system.
But they're rich and are always tax exempt and fly around in helicopters.
Sure, but they ultimately they believe, and to them it's not a conflict. The vanguard always, like in Soviet Union, the people at the very top in the party had the villas on the Black Sea, had their mistresses, the best looking women. They had all the ate caviar, etc. So it's like Orwell said. That's why he wrote what he wrote in The Animal Farm, that all animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
He'd been a communist and believed it till he got into it.
He saw what happened in the Soviet Union. This is why he wrote those. Those are all warnings. Of course, the modern left takes those as playbooks. That's why you have face crime and hat crime. You wear a MAGA hat, that's hat crime. That's one he missed. But we talked about face crime. The wrong expression on your face could get you punished. That's where we are now in this country. So these people are just, call them what they are. They are Marxist ideologues and Marxist religious zealots. That is their religion. And that's why, like I was at Yale Law School, one of my fellow students was a community organizer from New York and a union activist. And she said that the excesses of Stalin were our fault. Because the United States intervened and supported the White Russians against the regime, that is why we had Stalin. So no matter what happens, they'll never admit that communism itself is demonic and flawed. They'll always say it's the wrong people were in charge.
Once we've extinguished capitalism.
Yeah, it was wreckers from the capitalists who went in there and screwed up the revolution.
So Matt, now that what we talked about a year ago is confirmed, the attempted coup, 25th Amendment against the president, it's now on Fox News, CNN. CNN's saying it's a great idea. Where do we go from here knowing there's a fifth column that hasn't been prosecuted? I'm glad the president declared an emergency, but it's a dereliction of duty if Whitaker or this new deep state attorney general doesn't start indicting these people.
Yeah, if William Barr turns out to be just another guy like Mueller, Rosenstein, McCabe, I mean, he goes back to the same CIA origins. He's one of these blue ribbon commission guys you can count on to cover up like a TWA 800 or Waco or Ruby Ridge. He's one of those guys that has the patina of sincere objectivity and professionalism, but really I think to the bone he's a deep state operative, and that'll be a big tell right there. If all of this gets swept under the rug, we'll know. But going back to why did Trump get elected? It's because he did promise to build the wall. And at a gut level, at a litmus test, A-B level, people understand the globalists, the Democrats, they want to flood the country, Cloward Piven, the entire country, and turn every state into Calizuela. And Americans get it. And the Democrats, I think, are set up for a wipeout in 2020. I hope if we can pin open borders and population replacement on the Democrats.
I agree with you. I think Peter Schiff's wrong. I think their rage has made them be precipitous, be honest about who they are, and all their horrible frame-ups and the Covington kids and everything. I think if we just hold the line and get more aggressive in the info war, I think we win.
But Trump has got to, I mean, he should have someone like Edwin Vieira as Attorney General. He should go pick a real patriot who has proven.
Yeah, what does he think going and getting establishment people does?
Nothing. I mean, he's been convinced, and Barr he'll advocate for a red flag. If Trump signs a red flag law, a national red flag law, his goose is cooked because gun owners across the country will stay home and will not vote for him. And so he's being set up, I think, to push through a red flag law. And when he does that, he'll lose at least 10% of his base.
Agree 100%. Red flags are going to be a red line because you can imagine.
Well, tell people what a red flag is. Matt. Some listeners might not know what a red flag is.
Well, where they'll say that you shouldn't have a firearm in your house because somebody has a domestic violence warning against you, something like that, which is boilerplate for lawyers in a
yeah. I mean, almost 90% of divorces they tell the wife get a restraining order.
Well, this is worse.
Right.
This is taking that same problem and making it so that your local police chief or your corrupt local official or someone who doesn't like you, and local activist doesn't like your bumper sticker, can call the cops and say that you're a threat, and you'll never even know it until the cops come to your door because there's an ex parte hearing, which means you're not there. You have no opportunity to confront your accusers, no evidence on your behalf.
So they have a Star Chamber event. This is what Bloomberg's pushing, and they just take your guns.
Right. And you already had a death in Maryland. A man got in an argument with his adult sister who doesn't even live with him, not even a domestic violence situation. She called the cops on him. They came to his door because he went for his gun. They killed him. But why were they there in the first place?
All right, we're going to take some phone calls. I promise, one after the other. When we come back in a few minutes, we're going to go to Nikki and George and Nick and Max and Lyle and Emberly and Brad and James and Frank and Donald. Infowars.com. Stay with us. All right, Matt Bracken's here with us. I'm Alex Jones, commandeering this hour. Matt knows that. He appreciates it. We appreciate him. He's doing a great job. We've got Stuart Rhodes, Oath Keepers, here with us. Enemiesforeigndomestic.com, oathkeepers.org. Matt Bracken's here, and we have an active shooter in Chicago. We're getting the details right now. Aurora police respond to active shooter report at manufacturing company. That's Chicago, NBC 5. We'll be covering it as it unfolds. You guys are having some great discussions during the break. We got to go to calls. These are great folks, but you're also making fantastic points. We're not here dreaming of civil war or martial law or civil unrest. Europe and the U.S. is being put into this by the globalists. Their own admissions prove it. And so we have to realize the moment we're in. And the globalists are panicking because even in their skewed polls, Trump is gaining support and capitalism is gaining support, Matt Bracken and Stuart. So what would you call, Stuart, and then Matt Bracken, we're going to call, is the historic point we're in right now?
I think we're in the middle of an insurrection against the Constitution. I think the left are domestic enemies of the Constitution. They're Marxist enemies of the Constitution, and this is their end game.
But you're not just saying that. You're a constitutional lawyer. You're a veteran. You're a smart guy. People who aren't evil look at a thing happening and can't believe it because they judge it by their own morals. Historically, we have traitor collaborators working with multinationals and the Chi-Coms in Hollywood to collapse and conquer and vertically integrate the nation. I mean, that's what it is. We are under globalist attack with insurrection traitors. Matt Bracken?
Yeah, absolutely. What Stuart said is correct. And it's time now to blow past the smoke of socialist taqiyya. Remember, they lie. Just like Islamists will say, no, we're not trying to bring Sharia. They lie. So we have to judge them by their actions and their results. If a guy just is pretending to be an open borders, fatally altruistic, do-gooder that thinks that bringing in, 10,000 more Somalis to Maine or Minnesota, we can't accept that and go, well, he's misguided and stupid and destructive, but he has good intentions. We've got to blow past their lies and fake good
and realize they're following a program. Like I used to listen to you years ago, even before you were on, and you break down what they would do. This new Somali congresswoman we've got, I watched like a 30-minute interview she did a few years ago, and she starts out saying, oh, radical Islam, Boko Haram isn't good. And by the end of it, she's defending attacks on the Kenyan shopping malls. And I sat there and literally had a visceral, not responsive hatred. My gut was, this is an enemy. Why is she even here? I couldn't help it. I don't know how to describe it. It's beyond rage. It's beyond, it's like I'm feeling bad that she's she's literally gloating over dead people at a shopping mall in Africa.
Yeah, sometimes their mask, real quick point, sometimes their mask slips. And right now, since winning the midterms, they're overconfident. And this, like the Green New Deal and wide open borders, reception centers for the entire world to come in, their mask is slipping, and the American people are going to see it for what it is, I hope.
Yeah.
We're going to go to phone calls right now, but we cannot stress how insane this is. Well, let me ask you all a 10-second question, and we're going to go to calls. Is the free society turned the corner? Are we winning, or are we just fighting for our lives? I mean, I think at a gut level, the fact that we're awake now shows we're starting to win. Doesn't mean we've won the war, but I think we're on the right foot.
We're in the middle of it. It's an open window that can go either way. As you pointed out before, this is an open window that can go either way. We have to push and make sure we don't get complacent or apathetic. We got to keep pushing on our side.
I think Trump is a reprieve. I think Trump is a reprieve. He's not an antidote, and he's bought us time. It's sort of like after Czechoslovakia, before Poland, and leading up to the Second World War. We're in that period. We bought some time, a Dunkirk, but we're still leading towards a civil war because the Bolsheviks, the communists, the socialist dem socks, they would push us straight to the USSR if they had the power. The reason they can't is the Second Amendment.
Let me ask you about a bloody nose. We don't want them to exactly where you're going. I don't want any violence. I'm not calling for it, but not a false flag to make them be victims, but a real bloody nose. do they? I don't think they even have any sense in them. I don't think till they're being dropped out of helicopters into the Atlantic Ocean, I don't think they're going to wake up.
You know, the way I put it is those who know what it means to zero a rifle should not instigate a civil war with those who do and have. I mean, they literally are in a green dream utopian fantasy, and they're going against people who have studied communist revolution to the nth degree and understand every phase that's coming towards us. So it's an irresistible force going to meet an immovable object. It's going to be like a tsunami hitting a seawall.
That's the bottom line is we have globalist funded. We're in the middle of a Marxist revolution.
Right. But one potential silver lining is the walkaway movement. And as you said earlier, increasingly blacks and Hispanics, like when I was at that rally in El Paso, about a quarter of the audience were Hispanic patriots. And so there are Americans who are waking up, and so we can't throw them, maybe out with the bathwater. The dyed-in-the-wool zealot leader can't be reformed. You're only going to change their mind with a bullet. But their followers a lot of times can be reached because they're going so crazy. Because they're like you have what's her name, the one from Minnesota you were just talking about.
Oh my God!
Well, she's saying that she wants Ellison now to investigate the powerlifting community because they're protesting against men who are transgender males, but they're actually chromosome males competing against women, and she wants to make that a crime. She wants to.
But in Islam, gays are killed.
Right. So in the countries where she champions she turns a blind eye to their abuse of people's rights, a transgender male would be killed. Exactly. And yet here she's trying to. Go ahead.
Yeah, eventually their cognitive dissonance will cause the pot to boil over. The identity politics, which is
she's
racial
a total Fruit
and
Loop.
sexual.
Yeah.
It eventually explodes. It can only hold together while they have the glue of political correctness to tamp down any kind of criticism.
And I think you said that, and we're not calling for violence. I just think it's critical if they kick things off, cut the head off the snake. And I think that's the point is their leadership is decapitated. They fade away very quickly. I think the globals are going to find with us, decapitating leadership, I don't think it's going to do anything.
No. And the president can right now suppress the insurrection in California and in all of the sanctuary cities by prosecuting them for violations of federal law. And that wouldn't be martial law, which is not constitutional. That'd be executing the laws of the union.
I agree, but does the establishment understand that patriots are high IQ, have an operating system based on the Western civilization? You don't cut heads off snakes with us.
No.
In fact, that triggers a response. Well, the left, these are literally zombies who don't have their own operating system.
Yeah, you get your Private Murphy will step up and take over. Okay. So it doesn't make a difference.
You'll find out that Private Murphy is way more talented than Captain Rupert Poindexter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's take a quick call.
When Private Murphy steps up, then shit happens.
Yep.
Really.
Audie Murphy comes out of the ground.
Donald in Maryland, you're on the air. Donald, go ahead.
Trump taking the knee today, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and making this concession speech, and green is the new red, where they letting all the Muslims in with to take over the United States. And people bowing down Trump, he's just blocked for everybody.
I think what you're saying, Donald, is we're seeing open treason, and I'm surprised Trump isn't being carried on people's shoulders.
And I actually call them watermelons a few years back because he's right. Green is the new red. They're green on the outside, they're red on the inside. It's the new technique, along with identity politics, just the next way to try to convince people to.
Donald, anything else?
Trump took a knee. How you feel about Trump taking a knee, making that concession speech, and turning and signing? He said that it was a bad deal with Obama that he signed with Iraq and with Canada and Mexico. The deal he signed today is worse.
No, I hear you. This new thing Trump's signing on to. Let's talk about that when we come back. Thanks, Donald. More calls straight ahead. All right, 4 cops have been shot and reportedly are fighting for their lives, along with citizens in Chicago. They're in Aurora, a suburb. We'll be following that on the War Room coming up, 3 o'clock Central, though, in Schroyer and others. I said I'd go to your calls. I'm being a bad person, not getting to them, so I'm going to go to them right now. Who's been holding the longest here? George, and then Nikki and others. George in California, you're on the air. Go ahead.
How's it going, Alex? It's good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you.
Man, it was about time that Trump would call it a national emergency. Like, I've been talking to you about it most of the time, where we have a problem with the illegals coming in, the drugs and everything.
Yeah, this country is in an emergency.
And what I find most incredible is the fact that we also have a homeless problem, but people would rather take care of the immigrants than the people who, say, serve the country and are now homeless, trying to get food and trying to get help.
You know, that's a great point, and I appreciate your call. Matt Bracken and, of course, Stuart Rhodes, why is the homeless population, they admit, ballooning, especially in blue cities?
Well, it's just the poverty that has been caused in the cities in particular by the Democratic policies. You know, and they don't really care about those people. That's the problem. They've used them up and gotten what they want out of them, and so now their focus is on new voters. Period.
And these people don't have families. Most of the time, it's mental illness. What do you think's happening, Matt?
Well, I think that the Calizuela model is proving to be a resounding success for the Dem Sox, and they would like to see that repeated in every state. They don't care if there's needles and feces on the sidewalks, if there's homeless camps, you know, right around the corner from Rodeo Drive, as long as they're in power. They are happy to rule the ruins. So importing masses of foreign illiterates that will vote Democrat for welfare, that's what we have to expose. That's the big litmus test going forward. The people that are for open borders are for replacing Americans with welfare voters, period.
And again, we're not helping these people when we bring them here. It was about 1.5 years ago. I don't get to hike a lot, but I was on Barton Creek in a wealthy area of Austin, a few miles from my house. And I've learned to recognize Central Americans versus, you know, different groups. And they were Guatemalans. And I asked, you Guatemalan? They said, yeah. There was a Guatemalan family of like a middle-aged man and his wife and 4 or 5 kids. And they had Coke cans with strings on them catching bass out of Barton Creek. And they had a fire going. And now I go where I've been going for 25 years on the Greenbelt, and there's shanty towns up in the hills, and there's like Guatemalans and stuff, and there's Guatemalans right down the street from here. I mean, it's like, I'm not even against these people. I'm not, but how did we like end up with Guatemalan shanty towns and people eating out of the creek? I mean, what is going on?
Same way you ended up with Somalia being transplanted to Minneapolis.
Well, they've totally done it.
Right. So it's the same model, and it's not helping them. I mean, they've destabilized, the globalists destabilized entire regions of the world and then cause a dysphoria into the West, and that's meant to swamp the West at a greater rate that can be assimilated and kill Western civilization.
These were, I had to respect the family. I couldn't even videotape it. I was so like, they were like, you know, had the little woven hats, and they were like almost in Mayan attire. You know, it's almost like Peruvian.
Yeah, I mean,
and I was like, what? I was like, you Guatemalan? Yes, Senor, we're Guatemalan. Like, you live here in the Barton Creek.
Yeah, and I have compassion for them. I really do. But we need to bring people.
But I mean, I'm going to be searched by the TSA when I fly. I'm under all this surveillance, and there's Guatemalans living in Austin on the side of the creek.
Right, and they're being used as a weapon, and you know that's the problem, is that even the innocent ones who are coming here for a better life and actually love this country are being used as a weapon against us as well. But they're being conditioned to not assimilate along with that.
It's just Twilight Zone, and they're like, oh, take your vaccines. And then meanwhile, they bring the illegals in that have the diseases. It's insane. George in California, go ahead.
Yeah. And the other point that I wanted to make is there is a good amount of people that bring a lot to the country. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not going to be a hypocrite. My parents were illegal immigrants. But they need to do what my parents did and assimilate. Become citizens, learn the language, pay the taxes, and be voters and actually hear their voice out.
No, I agree. Great point, George. And that's the point is, we don't need the Democrats and the media in indoctrinating them into America hate when they get here. That's why it has to be stopped.
Well, what's happening, though, is that they're being brought here and they're being taught not to assimilate. I mean, I think it's, what's his name? Victor David Hansen has a pretty good book about this. about how he grew up in California, where the ethos was you come here and assimilate, you become Americans, like my relatives did, or my descendants or ancestors. I mean, they came here and they learned a language. My mom wouldn't even teach us Spanish, and everyone served in the military, and you became Americans, and you saluted the flag and said the national anthem. Now they're being taught to fly the Mexican flag, or even worse, to fly the communist flag, and to hate this country. And the left is.
But it's obvious if you're going somewhere because you think it's better, you become that. And you add to it. You don't
that's how it used to be, but it's not obvious anymore. They're being told, the columns on these caravans are flying the Honduran flag or the Guatemalan flag, and they're being told by the leftists that, yes, you have a right to be here, as Cortez just said. You have a right to be here because it's actually indigenous people's lands. That's straight out of the Weather Underground Prairie Fire.
Straight out of victim ideology, liberation theology.
Yeah, and that's garbage because there were no Mexicans or anybody else that was pushed out of America after the Treaty of Guadalupe. That is a fiction. The Spanish citizens who lived in the Southwest became Americans. There's nobody from Mexico.
Well, let's be clear.
Mexico
begged the Scots and Irish and everybody out of Alabama and Tennessee down here because they couldn't beat the Comanche. And that's Texas. And then as soon as we wiped out the Comanche, then they moved in. They're like, oh, now that you've killed the Comanche that were killing everybody, the Comanche were not nice folks. I got a little bit of Comanche in me. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not proud of it. The point is that was the real war that went on. Let's take another call here real quick. Max in Wisconsin. Max, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Stuart. Hi, Alex. Hi, Matt. I'm huge fan, Stuart. I was wondering, I wanted to give you a little tip for the 2020 election. I think you guys can be very effective in turning blue areas red. In urban areas such as Milwaukee, Chicago, there is a huge population of African American and Slavic people who are very into the gun rights and are unaware of a gun grab occurring in front of them. For us, it's very in front of our face, but for the average TV people, it's not very apparent.
I agree. Pelosi saying, we'll use an emergency to take your guns. The House saying we have the votes to ban all semi-autos. I think we make guns the big issue because they are.
Well, certainly. I mean, it's one of the big issues. The two biggest issues that got Donald Trump elected, three.
Borders and guns.
Borders, jobs, and guns. And those are the three things people in this country care most about, and their religious freedom, too. So,
and again, it's not like we're obsessed with guns. It's like we get I'm a good person. I'm a free person. I have a right to have a gun.
You have a right and obligation and duty to defend your family and self-preservation, but also we understand that if we are disarmed, we'll go look at Venezuela right now. People being shot in the streets openly by the secret police. So we have a duty and obligation.
In France, they're using these exploding projectiles that are supposed to be fired at people's feet. They're blowing off hands and eyes with them. So this is in disarmed France. I mean, in the United States, the police would never do that, because there would be a different kind of return fire.
Enemiesforeigndomestic.com. Find his books there. Great job to everybody. The war room is about to start. Stuart Rhodes, you're welcome. Both of you guys to go on there if he wants to have you. I'm sure he wants to have you. In just a few minutes, about to start with Owen Schroyer. I'm out of time. I apologize to Lyle, Embry, Brad, James, Frank, Nikki, and Nick. If you call into the war room, I'm sure they'll take your call. But thank you for holding. Thank you for calling. We appreciate you, and we thank you for that. And then lastly, big sales in this weekend for our great nootropic Brain Force Plus and our other big special as well on Turbo Force. That's a total body energy, pre-workout, energy drink replacement beyond that. And our new protein bars that are the highest in protein bars. Normally $3 a piece, discounted $2.40. Believe me, these are like a $5, $6 protein bar for $2.40. Get them in 12 packs. In vanilla, coconut, and, of course, chocolate and peanut butter. And they'll probably demonize that. He sells snake protein. Why, Jones sells water filters. He's a scammer. And seeds. They'll grow a plum tree or an apple tree, but they're bad. He's a bad person. We need to be funded, and it's your action. Instead of buying stuff at a grocery store, buying it here that funds our operation. So get a Don't California My USA shirt at InfoWarsStore.com today. All right, Stuart Rhodes, great having you. You're going to be co-hosting some days next week. And Matt Bracken will be doing that as well. The War Room with Owen Schroyer starts in just a few minutes at Infowars.com/show and stations across the country. Trump has declared the emergency. It's a good first start.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Hey, I don't complain about it, but this is a real war. This isn't like your average show, like, oh, we're the cutting edge, oh, the tip of the spear, oh, support us. We are in absolute contention, in war with the globalists. We are taking them on at point-blank range. And if you go to the establishment hotels or go to establishment grocery stores, I don't judge you. We all do it. That's all you can buy from. But if you just get your coffee, organic, high-quality, InfoWarsStore.com, 5 stars, third-party review sites, Wake of America coffee. If you just get your high-quality, fluoride-free, colloidal silver, iodine-fortified, super blue toothpaste. If you just get your InfoWars Life protein bar, 15 grams of protein, highest quality, they sell the average competitor to $6-7. These are $3 at regular price, $2.40 discounted, 12 packs. We've got them in 2 different flavors. We've got them in vanilla coconut, and we've got them in, of course, peanut butter and chocolate. It's the highest end. It's at a lower price. No reviews yet. We just went on sale today. How will the media demonize that? Oh, he sells protein bars now. That's not allowed. 12 bars, $36 instead of $48. It's a huge savings. It funds our whole operation. Please take action. InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsStore.com. And there's a big sale ending, by the way, this weekend as well. 50% off on Brain Force Plus, our great nootropic, and, of course, the combo pack, Turbo Force. But whatever you do, fund us, because without you, we're going nowhere. But listen, get your coffee, get your toothpaste, get your protein bar, sign up for auto ship, additional 10% off, and don't worry about it. Know you're funding the InfoWar. A total win-win.